Calling to order the May 15th, 2025 business meeting, regular meeting of the Historic Resources Commission here in 111 North Front Street, room 204. It is 4:15 p.m. Thank you for your patience as we waited to assemble the quorum here today. The next business meeting of the commission will be Thursday, June 5th, 2025 at noon in room 205. And the next hearing of the commission will be Thursday, June 18th, 2025 at 4 p.m. room 204, 111 North Front Street on the second floor here. Swearing in of the staff here present this evening. Jacqueline, do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony for the commission this evening?
I do, Jacqueline Mizell.
Thank you. And introduction of the commissioners present here this evening, starting at my very far right. Mike Ford.
Matt Leisure.
Mika Baba.
Stuart Givney.
Joseph McCabe. Moving on to items of public forum. Are there any items of public forum this evening?
No items.
Okay, having no items of public forum, moving on to approval of the staff approvals. And I believe one of them, there may be an abstention on staff approvals for the record, Matt Peter. Approval of the staff approvals for this evening.
So moved.
Having a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion, and who is the second? Okay, Tamika is the second for clarity on that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Okay, and one abstention there for the record. And approval of the minutes from the last meeting, April 17th, 2025.
So moved. Second.
Having a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstention? Motion passes. On to certificates of appropriateness for this evening, Jack.
Okay, I might try to use my voice instead of the mic since it's causing a bit of feedback without the topper here. The first application we have is 463-479 North High Street.
If you could raise your right hand.
Yeah, sure. Let me put my computer down.
Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony for the commission this evening?
Yes,
If you could state your full name and association with the property for record.
I'm Matthew Lorenz. I'm with the Division of Design Construction under the Department of Public Service. I'm the design project manager for the city's project that will be constructing streetscapes along these corridors.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
This application for refuse enclosures, the proposal is to remove existing refuse enclosures on Wall Street for the 463 and 479 North High Street buildings. They'll be constructing a new refuse enclosures after the Department of Public Service streetscape project is complete, and that will be reconstructing Wall Street and adjacent sidewalk. A new enclosure for 463 North High Street is proposed to be relocated to the north side of Vine Street, and a new enclosure for 479 North High Street is proposed to be relocated further north from the existing location. The refuse enclosures, as far as the business meeting, were proposed to be clad with corrugated metal, and then the new enclosures will not be affixed to the buildings. There will also be replacement of existing staircase and landing at the Wall Street side with new stair for the submitted materials. So due to the Department of Streetscape project that will reconstruct the Wall Street and the adjacent sidewalk, those will be existing refuse enclosures will be removed and replaced with those new ones. So at the May business meeting, the commission noted that they understand the necessity and are okay with the enclosures themselves. The commission noted concern regarding the proposed corrugated metal siding for the enclosure that will be located on Vine Street. Citing that Vine Street is a high foot traffic area, and they are concerned about the cladding being utilitarian style and not compatible next to the historic facade out on that open pavement. Wall Street has historically been more of an alley, and the commission did not have the same concern about the corrugated siding for the refuse container at that location. The commission asked that the applicant include a siding option for the Vine Street enclosure that would be a better fit against the brick building. And then just staff notes that more than one siding option can be proposed. The commission asked to make sure that the visual representation of the materials in the drawings match how they will appear in reality, and asked that the site plan identify the site materials. So just a heads up for the commission, the applicant has let staff know they've submitted some additional materials today, but we just didn't have time to see and add them to the application that materials that we have up on screen. Overall, the recommendation is to recommend approval for application COA 2500091 at 46347 North High Street in the North Market Historic District with the following conditions. And that is that the revised siding materials for the Vine Street refuse enclosure be submitted for commission subcommittee review and final approval, and that the updated drawings and site plan be submitted to staff for final review and approval. The staff recommendation is based on the City Code 316.13 standards for site improvements, the City Code 316.11 standards for alterations, specifically numbers 9 and 12, and then the guidelines regarding street furniture on page 82.
Is there anything the applicant would like to add?
So since the last meeting, I went back and discussed with our architect, what the intention was. That is part of the material that I submitted today late. He was working on it until a late hour, but wanted to explain that, hey, the materials for the metal siding were chosen for their durability, their ease of maintenance for the different property owners, and that the inspiration was old rail cars. That, hey, we're from the Union Station on the other side of the street when that was through there. So they marked up a couple of things that are included in the submittal. However, we have prepared a couple of different alternatives, which include different wood sidings, similar to the existing enclosure. Some of them being an unfinished material, kind of like a rustic or barnwood or something like that, with possibly some metal accents, or also going to a similar material to what's already on the building already, which there's some blue accents for paneling and stuff like that, which is very fitting in nature for the front and the rear of the building.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Comments from the commission this evening? Jacqueline, I do have a question for you, which is, am I seeing an updated file anywhere for the Vine Street?
No, so those materials would have been submitted sometime today, but
Yeah.
for us to add it on.
Yeah, literally like probably an hour and a half ago is when I finally got those
Do we
revised.
not have to treat this like any other applicant, and essentially just have that portion come back to the next meeting?
We could do that, or before those materials were submitted, our staff recommendation is for possible subcommittee review, so up to what the commission is feeling comfortable with.
I just want to make sure that we're not, giving any preferential treatment. Because it really would, if we're proposing different materials on the Vine Street facade, sheet A101, it's not going to look anything like the drawing at all. Probably have to post some details and things that are not looking like a corrugated component. So I'd be okay sort of bifurcating this, and we could approve a portion of it maybe potentially. But obviously other commissioners have to weigh in the rest of it.
So we want to discuss more of the Vine Street one. Secondarily.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have been concerned about the Vine Street one just because Vine Street is a heavily traversed
Right.
pedestrian area versus the other one is on the alleyway. When the building's finished, it's really gonna read like an alleyway. And I never took exception to the recording. I don't, but I'm just one vote for us too. So.
So the one on Wall Street is the one that's more alleyway, right? And the Vine would be more, that was against the brick building?
Yes.
Okay,
Which is literally on the pedestrian sidewalk.
right. Yeah, I'm still a little disappointed at the representation. I mean, we're not showing any brick on the building, or the corrugation scale is wrong, not showing standing seam metal roof, like the things that we kind of pointed out at the business meeting. So I understand maybe the visual impact of the one on Wall Street is not as important, but still, I would like to see the materials at least try to reflect what was actually being proposed a little bit more accurately. And I do agree with you. I don't feel comfortable moving anything forward without seeing a proposal on this facade here.
Is the applicant, obviously see there's a corrugated piece.
Yeah, this was the corrugation that was proposed originally on both enclosures. So it's not, with the same finish. showing the wider ribs and stuff like that. They're just here for reference.
So this would be the walls then too, is what had been originally proposed as.
Yeah, so this is the walls and the doors, would be this material. I believe the
And how does
one
that link back to rail cars then, or you gave a story of that?
It's the metal siding and stuff like that, the very vertical elements that they put onto rail cars where they have the seams. They wanted, at one point, there was even a proposal to have faux or similar rivets down the steel frame that's gonna be making up the enclosure to kind of even give it more of that.
This
feel.
sounds like a great story, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, but that
Yeah.
material
It-
and what's on these drawings doesn't reflect any of what you just told us.
That's fine, that's fine.
I mean, I'm just gonna call it like,
No,
spade
you're-
spade in this scenario.
Yeah, no.
I'm not seeing the translation of it.
Understood.
So to clarify that, so is this drawing showing this as the,
Correct, so this will be vertical, and then for a door to add visual interest, they just turned it 90 degrees on that side. So, so it's just not a solid block of this corrugated metal or rib.
There've been, in consideration to the edge treatment as well, so we'd like to have a profile like that, depending on how it maps out, there's a thickness at the edge to capture the edges or and turn corners, so.
Correct, so it's the same, the supplier has different trim kits that are available that are bent metal to make up a corner or something like that, or going around the edges. That would be used on the outward facing corners. The two on this enclosure, well, two on either enclosure on those outward facing corners would have that. And then also transitioning to the roof, the standing seam roof obviously has all its own different trims. Those weren't presented in the materials, but could be added.
Yeah, I'm just curious about, the actual implementation of how that would be deployed, right?
Yeah,
So if,
so
if you were to cut a detail section and look at a corner, like how are we transitioning that material? I understand the words that you're giving, but curious about actually the drawing of it.
okay.
And then, same thing with, like the door panel, does that have a trim kit all the way around the door so that there's an edge condition all the way around it? So that would be another detail, show how those things are terminated.
Okay.
That sounds like minutia, but I think it's important for us to understand actually, the proposal, a little bit, at least from my perspective, that's just my opinion.
I mean, absolutely. We need to have that documentation there. So in the case that it's not built to the way that you're describing to us today, that we're able to go back and, on that, and say, this is what you had told us you were going to build, and this is what we got. So I think we will need to actually see those drawings in full detail before we can have a final vote.
And
But I agree.
When I look at, and to me, when I look at sheet 102, and I look at the left-hand photo right there, I mean, the proposal is underneath that kind of, fire stair that's got a lot of steel. So like that material maybe sinks in my mind where there's a bunch of steel. Sure. But it still needs to be detailed, right?
Yeah, and the other thing, the nagging thing I'm sitting over wondering is how is that gonna weather? It's gonna get beat up, the traction closure and material like corrugation, like that, so. It's dented, it's.
Yes, I mean, this is basically, it's like a roof deck, isn't it? I think there just needs to be a further study of it with advanced material grams. Really, truly detail out for us what you're proposing on Vine Street. Then I think this, if that's the materials, I still think there needs to be a comprehensive drawing that really shows the rest of the enclosure with detail.
Okay.
Motion to continue.
Regarding COA 25-00091, make a motion to continue the application, to give applicant more time to develop detail surrounding the enclosures as well as the commission time to review the materials that were submitted just today.
Is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second, any further discussion, further questions? Any questions from staff? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes.
See you in June.
Thank you.
Moving on to COA 25-00380, 540 Meyer Place. Anybody here for that?
The Meyer Place application was moved to staff approval at the business meeting. So we can skip ahead to number 3.
Number 3 is 204 East Oakland Avenue. Is there somebody here for 204 East Oakland?
I think our laptop just turned off, so I was.
If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
Yes.
If you could state your full name and association with the property for record.
Steve Lesko, represent.
Completed, remove porch lattice. That work has been completed to install decorative shutters and then exterior printing on wood or non-masonry. And that work has been completed as well. So this property includes a 2-story wood frame home constructed by 1924 and an application for window replacement, removal of the wooden wrap on exterior casings, and repair of wood trim and installation of new wood trim to match original wood casings was approved in October 2022. A portion of the COA was not followed, so that would include the trim work and then the installation of the one dormer window at the front. And so a code violation was issued regarding the window and those additional work items. An application regarding a code violation to replace the historic front door and then retain a new front door was continued at the July 2023 hearing. A new application was submitted to replace the inappropriate front door that was installed without approval with the new front door to match the original door, and that was staff approved in 2023. The current application was continued at the March hearing for the absence of the applicant to allow them time to come before the commission. So the faux decorative shutters, they originally prior faux decorative shutters that were removed in 2019, and the new decorative shutters were installed in 2023. So in general, staff recommends removal of non-historic shutters unless there's historic documentation that could support retention of the shutters, and that's in keeping with the guidelines regarding shutters. So at the March business meeting, the commission noted that they could support remedying the trim at the bottom of the dormer windows by removing the metal flashing and extending wood trim back similar to the before photo. The commission noted that documentation would be needed that shutters were historically present to support the installation of new shutters. The prior shutters they noted were likely not approved and have been removed for several years, and the age and style of all were unlikely shutters historically. The commission noted that any new shutters would need to match the historic shutters placement and size if there is that documentation. Currently, the new shutters are not proportional to the windows. Historically, the shutters would have been set into the frame and have been able to cover the entire window opening rather than sit on the outside of the windows. The commission asked staff to include an example of an appropriate window from approved windows list with those dimensions and profiles that functions as a casement window but has the appearance of a double hung window. And then so staff note a Marvin Elevate window, which is a fiberglass window from the approved list, does have the appearance of a 1/1 double hung window and functions as a casement. It has been previously approved by other City of Columbus historic commissions for egress purposes and to have that appearance of the 1/1. Staff recommendation is to recommend continuing application COA 2500102 at 204 East Oakland Avenue in the Northwood Park Historic District to allow the applicant time to revise the application to meet city code and guidelines. The basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code 306.11 standards for alteration, specifically numbers 2, 3, 5, 6, 11, and 12, and then the guidelines regarding purchase and use, windows and window replacement, dormers, and shutters. And with that, we'll give the recommendation.
Thank you. Is there anything the applicant would like to add at this time?
Well, which one do you want to address first? I mean,
This is your set of violations. We'll let you drive.
okay,
discussion.
so the violation is for the dormer window. And, again, when we violate egress code. So he recommended using the trim line eclipse, casement window, which was approved in 2 other locations on the house as a picture window. Obviously, this one is a crank out window, and so that's what we did. Clearly, they are different. One's a double hung, one is a casement window. So I guess we're asking for approval of this window in the revised application.
So what about the other violations? It looks like you infilled siding on the sides of the.
Well,
dormers.
That was, the side of that was asphalt shingle, which everything again, that I've read, and again, not an architect or anything like that, but asphalt shingles are not designed to be put on a vertical. And they were falling apart and failing.
They're, originally there's slate on those sides of the dormers.
Well, they weren't slate though. I mean, it was asphalt shingles.
Correct, but you will find that this detail is used in other historic homes. So you've got a second violation. And second, well.
I can also show you at least several other houses that have vinyl siding.
You can, but we're talking about your house.
I understand. I just trying to understand the reasoning.
Their dormer may have always had siding on it though. And if they came and they received approval, that's a whole different discussion. And we're dealing with, cleanup of violations, so this is a whole different thing. And then additionally, the sill was modified for the windows.
Yeah, and it appears from that picture that somehow that little bump out, I don't know how that got replaced in the from the installer.
Did you, you've had time to think about this. I assume this is not new that these violations existed. So what can we talk about here? What are you proposing to do to remedy the violations? Because
Well,
they're not things we approved.
Okay, but so the aluminum facing around the window was there, still there. It's obviously painted and matches the aluminum clad window, etc. But we didn't make those changes wholesale on the house. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. I would be willing to put that, I don't know what you call that piece that goes across on the dormer window to give that architectural feature back to the house. I guess what I need to know first is, can we get this window approved? I mean, because otherwise I don't really want to replace it with the fiberglass. The Marvin Elevate window, I did look into it. It's a fiberglass window. It's a simulated divided light. It's going to look very similar to that window, if not the same. That's already in there. That window has already been approved in 2 other locations. And it's fiberglass, and on the inside of the house, I know you don't care about the inside of the house, but it's actually stained trim work. So I'm not sure how I guess I would have to fall stain the fiberglass too to get it to match the other window.
And then tell us about the shutters.
Well, the shutters clearly were on the house. I have multiple pictures that show the shutters were on the house previously from the county website, and basically they were reinstalled. I think that generally looks better than we didn't own the house in 2019, but you can clearly see where they're staining from where the shutters were on the siding.
Right, but at the moment they were taken down, changed the dynamic, right? And we know that these are not original shutters.
Well, I mean, if, I don't know what an original shutter in 1924 was. I mean,
Well, that's,
I-
you can do a little research. There's a lot of research out there, that's good research that should
sorry,
come up with that. But what the commission's concern is, I mean, there's several photos of several years here where there's no shutters on.
yeah, and I agree with that. And again, we're confused because I could show you dozens of houses that have shutters on it, look just like
We're
ours.
concerned with this property.
I understand, but how do the other properties?
Are they in the district?
Yeah, they're across the street. I could show you house after house.
That's, that's something to have those property, you could always suggest there's a code violation there with your neighbor. We don't police the district, we just feel the applicants that come before us.
I mean, these are from the county website that shows shutters on the house in, the various photos that, this was 2015. Shows the shutters on the house.
Yeah, so there's a couple of reasons where you'll have unapproved work in historic districts. Either the work was installed before the area became a historic district, it was installed without approval a number of years ago and wasn't caught at the time, or it might be the current code violation. Once the code violation or unapproved work is removed, or something is done, we'll bring it back into compliance, so we wouldn't want to put a new code violation on the building.
Right, but how does something that was grandfathered in clearly after the historic district was created? Shutters
The
are on.
issue is you've removed.
I didn't remove.
Somebody did, they were
I didn't
removed
remove them.
at some point.
So you would
For a long
prefer,
time.
so you would prefer that we pull them off?
That is the recommendation of staff is they're disproportionate, they don't make sense.
Well,
Aesthetically, they don't. make
I think
sense.
the house looks way better than 85% of the other homes on the street after.
We are only looking at your house.
I understand.
And the commission has to follow city code and guidelines, and so our guidelines have specific criteria regarding shutters. A lot of that comes from avoiding the store sizing, which basically means avoiding creating a photo history. And so going outside of the city code or going outside the guidelines, we have to have a specific reason to make an exception. And so what I'm hearing from the commission is we don't have that rationale to make an exception to deviate from our code guidelines.
I mean, we're willing to pull the shutters off. I mean, if that's what you guys prefer to have done, I mean, we'll put it back.
We have to hear from you, the applicant, what you're proposing.
We'll propose to pull the shutters off then.
I mean, I think that eliminates the code violation. It's sort of a non-issue then for us at that point.
Okay.
So the window that's up at the top left-hand corner, how is the commission feel about the egress window that's been selected?
We have four different, I just want to make sure I understand, there's four different things happening here, right? The window, it's the sill, it's the trim, the siding, sidings, and then what was this piece, the corner?
It was aluminum. It's aluminum, and it was aluminum.
Okay, and what were we pointing out there, Jackie?
Still, I think this
Take
is.
a look at the comparison photos, you kind of see what was originally in place. And so there's an application for window replacement, the approval or the certificate of appropriateness approval document for that was to either retain the existing wood trim or install new wood trim to match any original. And then that approval also specifically prohibits putting new aluminum
We didn't,
trim back on.
we didn't remove, there was no wood trim. There was no wood trim around the windows.
I
We
guess
didn't,
my question to you, sir, though, is, and I'll use this as an illustrative photo. I can clearly see that there's a trim running around the siding.
the J channel,
I can see that something has been altered and edited right there.
well, that J channel still exists.
Where?
It's still on the window. That, you talk about where the siding butts into.
Did you put new trims over the top of the old trims?
I don't know what they did, but I think they painted it is what they
But
did.
you're telling me the J channel.
The J channel is vinyl. The J channel, I think, I'm not, again, is that there's a little piece of around all the windows, there's a little piece of vinyl that runs up along the aluminum. And the vinyl siding runs into that, and that J channel runs out. I think that's what they call it, a J. I don't,
Maybe that's what looks confusing. I think maybe the paint.
Just because the siding is hidden under.
Over
It's just
the J channel, so it looks like the trim is wider.
Exactly.
I
think-
think what's going on. This
I see what you're saying is because it's all been painted out, it does look wider.
It looks wider and that trim piece now just kind of blends in, whereas before it kind of stood out of the trim. Up here, you can see like the delineation there. Down here, kind of just blends.
So maybe it was caught in vein, you can't tell. So we have the side of the dormer that needs to be altered. We have below the windows that needs to be altered. And then we have a position on the window to discuss. I think there are better solutions for this, but I don't think this is the worst one I've seen. So I get the point of the functionality of that window. But you see how that looks when it's halfway cranked out, it just looks crazy. You know, the proportions are different, the openings are different. Buttons and blinds. I think there's perhaps a better solution than what we see today to accommodate the egress.
what's the solution? I mean, I know you said the Marvin, but I don't think it's, I mean, again, I know you probably don't want to hear this, but I could show you pictures of,
We're
other-
we're not your architect or.
I know, I understand, but you're the experts.
But we can only weigh on what options you give us.
I mean,
All right, let's let that ruminate for a minute. Let's
Okay.
get to the, we got a front door issue. Is that what else we have?
So that was addressed prior application.
Okay, so we've got,
Maybe take care of this, I guess this is just a big piece of flashing that's been put on
yeah,
top.
that's what it looks like, and it looks like in that picture it's all rippled or something.
I feel like that, and once again, we're not your architect, but I feel like this could be remedied fairly easily.
I agree.
And you could probably restore the detail, and it probably all still exists beneath this.
We can,
And that flashing doesn't have to come all the way down.
we can,
So that might be a easy resolution if it's willing.
I'm willing to do that, yes. We're willing to try to get that, I guess, windowsill. I don't know, is that what you, the
Looks like-
piece?
Must be like a 1 by or 2 by.
Correct.
Blocking that must run left to right or just as part of the integral windowsill.
I mean, we can make sure that that's either exposed or reinstalled as wood, if that's what you want.
so that's an easy fix.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's the sides of the dormer are easy fix. Now you need to find a material to go back similar to what it was originally, which would have been more like what had been there originally. What's there is not appropriate. So that's a fix. That's an easy fix. I think the windows, you have to really come up with a good solution for us. We're not gonna be able to design those for you. And of course, we can continue it to next month, give you some time, consider some options.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, we can bring you a present. I guess I just would like to vet this out a little bit. If we know that that window meets historic sash size or whatever, what's the bottom rail that you call? I mean, because that was what was important when we got the windows approved. We know it meets that. We know that it meets and it's equivalent to the Marvin Elevate. I mean, the only other solution is by changing both to either a casement window or both to a dormer. And I can't, I mean, to a double hung, but I can't do a double hung because then we're violating Ohio code on egress. And if,
And part of what I'm having the difficulty with is the fact that they don't belong together. So I think if we had a pair of something that matched, that resembled what was supposed to be there, that allowed you to have egress when needed, that might be something I could swallow a little better. But again, I'm.
right, but I think the problem we're having and we're going to have is that you have a double hung window. One window's out here and one window's back here. no matter what type of casement or picture window you put on, it's going to be out here. So the depth perception, I think, is the problem that we're having. How do I fix that with two different windows and meet Ohio code for egress?
It's above my pay grade.
But nobody's been able to give me an answer.
Precedent that you could provide in terms of, making sure
We
that
have
within the code.
Have had a couple of cases, egress windows.
There have been a few in the past, so it'll just depend on, you know, windows that are proposed, and we can bring up some past examples. The Marvin Elevate is one example, not from HRC, but other commissions. Of something close that has the simulated divided line to try to get that button depth and everything. And then, of course, commission can always take a look at other windows that get a little bit closer to those historic details, to those dimensions.
The Marvin is a casement.
Yes, that's the case now.
But I mean, I can't put if I put two casements up there, what you're gonna get. I mean, and I know you don't care about other houses, but I care about the way the house looks. What you will drive up and down the street, what you will see is people put window air conditioners, they pull out the casement, they put a window air conditioner up there, and then they put plywood, you know, above it. And that's what you got. And I can show you picture after picture. My neighbor 2 doors down, for the last 15 years, every 3 years, you could get a different picture. They change the window air conditioner from one side to the other. They just pull the casement window out, put the window air conditioner, and then put plywood. I mean, that's what somebody renting this home is gonna have to do in order to get.
Or you get a mini split and show the area. Splitters.
Yeah, I think at least my hesitation with the current solution is that there's a obvious mismatch of dimension between the two windows that just really sticks out.
I agree.
And it draws attention to it where that's the last thing we really want, is drawing attention to these dormer windows, especially, you know, there's a lot of really nice things going on with the house. And so we want to maintain that historic fabric, but like when we just have these dimensions, like that's quite a bit different right now, right? And when you look at those two in dimension, it's just off, right? And like you're talking about in terms of the depth, the relationship, it just doesn't look right.
Well, the depth, I agree with the depth doesn't, if you were up front of the house, the bottom sash is, I mean, they're pretty close. I think it's more of a picture thing there. But I mean, we could put, I don't know what you mean by a mini split, but if we put a window air conditioner in there, you just get rid of the bottom double hung window, and then the window air conditioner is gonna stick out. Instead of, you could see that he actually has a freestanding unit.
I don't know that we as commissions rule on removable air conditioners, so that's not our purview.
Right, but that would change the
But
way the
it's
window
not-
looks.
That's not our purview. We just care about what it looks like without the air conditioning.
What about if applicant had time to propose some of the changes that we've already discussed and represent those back to the commission? And then maybe do a little bit more research. I think you've heard enough about where we're coming from to understand maybe what we're looking for and make some proposals about what you'd be comfortable with that might meet the criteria that we're setting for.
Okay,
We'll continue this till next month, give you time. Just
Okay.
Stay connected with Jacqueline so we know.
Okay. sounds good.
I'm
Thank
going
you.
to continue this to the June HRC commission.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to case number 1698 Brighton Road. Anybody here for 1698 Brighton?
A couple more applications moved to staff approval.
Okay.
So we can actually jump to number 7.
Case number 7, 639 South Ohio Avenue. Anybody here for? If you want to raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
If you can state your full name and association with the property for record.
Amanda Williams, and I am the designer.
Wonderful. Thank you. Jack.
This application for 639 South Ohio Avenue is proposing an A or B option. A, to replace all side and rear existing windows with the insert pocket windows for the submitted materials. And then the other option being replacing all of the windows on the building with that same insert pocket windows. We do have an update since the business meeting. The applicant let us know that there was a break-in, and so there might be some damage. We're not certain the extent of the damage. That could include windows among some other interior items. Just to summarize, staff conducted a site visit originally in February, so we've got some of the window documentation there. At the time of the site visit, the windows, for the most part, were found to be in surprisingly good condition, and that is probably due to the storm windows, just because this property's been sat vacant for a number of years, and it's experienced fire and a damage to interior trim. So finding the windows are in good condition was unexpected, but that was what we found on the site visit. I know we already mentioned the itemized stuff for the couple of windows that didn't seem to be in as good condition or later windows at the business meeting. So we'll reiterate that unless the commission will find it helpful for any one of those. So replacement, our staff recommendation is to recommend approval of the application COA 2500339 with the conditions that any original wood windows that are in good condition be repaired in accordance with industry standards, and that a revised windows quote or schedule for either full frame replacement or the sash pack replacement with the selection from the approved windows list is submitted for the non-original or fire damaged windows. And then so there was a couple of things the commission mentioned at the business meeting. So I'll just note that the commission noted that they would support replacement of the rear elevation or addition windows, given that several of the windows at the rear are either later windows or have some deterioration. The commission had noted this would be a tough case to support replacing all of the windows at the side elevations with historic buildings keep losing good quality wood windows. The commission noted that the window with the missing bottom sash could potentially be rebuilt and would recommend considering rebuilding, considering the good condition of the majority of the remaining windows. And then disregarding the fire damaged window and the addition windows, the majority of the windows in the historic fabric will be simply remain. The commission added that if there is damage on the exterior side of the windows, the applicant could include additional documentation so the commission could see the outside of the windows and any of that deterioration. The commission noted that they understand the suppliers are fewer than they used to, and that organizations such as Columbus Landmarks have had lists of contractors in the past. And while the commission cannot recommend specific companies, they are aware of several companies around that have successfully done window repairs, for which window restoration is one of the primary businesses. The commission noted they would be supportive of new storm windows, either exterior or interior versions. And the commission noted they're not able to support the insert or pocket window replacement due to the downsizing that occurs from pocket or insert windows. So the basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code 3116.11 standards of alteration, specifically numbers 2, 6, and 12, and then the guidelines regarding windows and window replacement.
What would the applicant like to add?
So unfortunately, when I reached out to the owner to remind him of the meeting today, 2 things: he's not able to attend because he's at his grandpa's 93rd birthday party. Second thing is they regretted to inform me that there was a break-in. Someone again tried to catch the house on fire. There's significant spray paint damage and broken windows. I have not had time in the last 24 hours to get out there and assess the damage. However, Jacqueline, I did upload all of the photos that he sent me. They're not great. So I probably need to go back out and get you guys a new set of photos because I don't know the extent of the damage at all. I do know the front window is intact. It's just spray painted over. So that was really good news. The big front window, I can't say anything for the rest of them. Essentially what's happening is we have been trying to get quotes from multiple people. Most of these windows are switched to like a chute system. At some point, somebody took the pulley out, and we're getting a lot of like, well, we could do it, but we would take like 2 windows off at a time and take them back and bring them back when they're ready, take 2 more. So we're just really struggling to find somebody to do the work, which is why Mike, who was one of the guys that has worked in the historic district multiple times, mentioned to me that maybe you guys would negotiate certain windows and not certain windows, things he thinks he could restore versus maybe not the ones with the chutes. So that's when I reached out to Jacqueline and recommended that maybe we have a different discussion. And now since that, we've had a break-in. I did reach out per your recommendation to Landmark. I sent them an email request on the 30th, and I did get a response of just like, hey, we received your response, but I've not heard anything back. So we're trying everything we can.
I remember at the business meeting, general discussion was on the rear face and on the addition that you have. I don't think anybody was pushing back on new windows on the rear.
Right.
Because of the condition.
Yeah.
I really think we started to wonder though, based on the photos we've seen, is it possible to consider leaving at minimum the front windows?
Yes.
And then
Well, I want to
what are-
say.
what are really the conditions of the sides? We generally try to avoid mix and match
I know.
to the greatest extent possible, unless there's like an architecturally significant window on the sides, just because it starts to, again, the aesthetic doesn't look
Yeah.
right. So when you say like, the counterweight system is removed and what was it, like a spring system maybe?
No, it's-
ultimately?
This is funny. I lived in the neighborhood too, and this happened to me. It's like a metal chute. It's just like aluminum so they can slide, but
They forced it.
yeah.
It's like punching, it's like, yeah, it was like the track.
Yeah, which then it's just a friction fit, as I recall, once you
Yeah.
put those in.
But they like groove them in,
Yes.
so then it's hard to put the pulley back in. So
So they like, you got a gap. Right, it's like,
we were just, I was hoping that maybe we could and I agree with you, this house is also being flipped to be sold, so it kind of, we want it to look nice, so we want it to get good top
By the
dollar.
way, you have exquisite woodwork on
I
the
know.
inside,
I
which doesn't often end up being intact on.
No.
I know we don't weigh too much on the inside conditions of properties ever, but it is rare to see that the moldings
I know.
are intact.
And the goal is to keep them, yes.
Okay.
I, again, haven't been since I got the email about the damage
The biggest thing
yesterday.
for us though is that you don't propose downsizing the window. We see people who take out the window. and
No,
put
no,
in a
no.
new window and they just pop in that dimension, and that's where we're saying, that's.
Yeah.
Absolute.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I've been here with multiple applicants. I'm just a consultant in the area for them. But no, the answer would be to pick something on the approved list that is in line with the vision, with the house, and keep all window sizes the same. We want to keep all the trim the same. The goal was we'd have like a small section that had fire in the kitchen that we'd have to like have that trim remade, but the rest was really good. So we're really excited.
Is the assessment still ongoing then at this point? Like, cause in terms of the.
Of the damage.
proposal of
Oh.
what you would like to see us
So
comment on
my
today.
original request would be that maybe we talk about what windows we could pay to keep that maybe have the pulley intact and what windows we would be okay to go ahead and replace new, without making it look like a calico cat, to your point. So I was just hoping to have a further discussion, so maybe we can move the windows along, because that, we did framing and now that's like windows are holding up everything else.
Yeah, I think what would be helpful, at least from my standpoint, would be looking at each elevation, so say like a front and the 2 sides and the
Mhm.
back. And we've already talked about the back. I
Sure.
think you've heard our comments about the front in general. It'd be great to
Yes.
preserve as much as we can, especially if the windows are in good shape.
Yeah.
Yes, in my mind, I don't understand the real condition of the windows on the sides to be able to say, can we restore or do they need to be replaced?
Sure.
And to me, it's a matter of what is the current condition.
Okay.
And so it sounds like you guys are still studying that piece of it.
Well, we actually had Jacqueline out, and her recommendation, I think there were 4 that you said couldn't be restored at that point.
Yeah, so we identified, 4 that looked, good for replacement, including some of the rear, so that modern rear. And then there's one that was pretty fire damaged, enough where I think replacement would be best.
Which side had the fire damage one?
Unfortunately, it's on, if you're facing the house, it's on the right side, so it's the side that faces the half lot. And most of the windows on the first floor, I believe, are the ones that have the chutes. However, like the historic transom looking window was intact. I can't, same thing now. And the front window was intact. So yeah, we were just hoping that maybe we could get this moved along a little faster, or maybe I could point out what windows the guys are saying, like, we don't want to touch these, but we would restore these.
So for example, like right now, we have an elevation up that looks to be the
Mhm.
right, looking at the front of the house, that'd be the right hand side of the house.
So the fire damage
There's
is window
four
K.
windows there, right?
Mhm.
Tell me about those 4 windows.
Fire damage is window K.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure that M has a metal chute. And I cannot say for J and L. I think they were okay
Is there another window the size of K in the house?
on the other side.
There's,
okay. Now,
and you think it's intact?
I can't say anything as of yesterday when I got that email, so I don't,
That's to your knowledge.
yeah, to the best of my knowledge, to my last knowledge.
now, do we have a picture of the other side of the house?
You should, yeah,
Right here.
it's the same side.
Yeah, okay, so that's, by the way, go back up one. We miss a window. There's one more window here. Tell me about what, window N.
N is good.
N is good. Okay. So except for one window that's fire damaged, the one that has the chutes in it, essentially there are 3 here salvaged.
Four.
Yeah. I think we're okay.
So what I was
I consider
asking
those
for is LJMK. See what I mean? Like LJMK new around the back of the house new, and then around the other side, so that we're keeping those front porch, front facing.
So you're proposing L, J, M, and K to be new, N to be old, the front to be old.
Mhm.
If we could find a good representation, I actually think I follow what you're trying to do here. I thought it might make sense, but
Yeah.
can we see the other side of the house?
Yeah, sorry, guys.
So the visibility is a little tougher because of the complexity of the space between the two buildings.
So
Yeah.
we've got A and B are on the front, but then C, D, E, and F are on the side.
Correct.
And tell me about C, D, E, and F.
They vary. I mean, you can see like some of them, F looks really good, but E is missing like major pieces. So that's why we were like, if we could just get the sides and the back, that would help us move fast. And then we're restoring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 historical windows.
C and D that's an elevation, even though it's on the side, it's a little easier because of the setback of the neighboring house.
Correct.
So E and F are a little more disguised. so to speak.
Correct. Yeah.
So, and you think E, no good, you think F maybe?
I mean, you can see in that photo right there, it looks like the window frame's intact on F, but E, there's not even like a full bottom piece.
It would seem just to match the 2 sides, so we have O and P and then C and D, we keep all of those.
Keep that front border all the same.
Right,
For
right.
the facade looks correct.
Yeah.
The front facade, and then from there back,
Yeah.
We're back on both sides, can get this.
yeah. That's what I'm thinking, salvage what you can with those.
So which ones are staying?
So because of the setback of the property that we're seeing in this lower picture, you can see C and D very easily. So I'm thinking C, D, B, A are all salvaged, wrapping the corner, because they're 2 tucked in right on that first elevation.
So A, B, C, D, old, E, F, new, go to the other elevation. And then
Oh,
So we're gonna keep,
L and M are old.
no, no.
what's the half?
Yeah, right there,
O,
so.
P,
Keep N,
O, P, but L and M, oh, sorry.
J, K.
O, N, and P. Okay.
there you go. O, N, and P original, and then L, J, N.
M, yeah, and those are the fire damaged areas, so I'm assuming once we get into opening those up,
I think that makes sense.
yeah, they'll,
And the back, I think,
yeah, the
was a
back,
very straightforward case for me.
Yeah.
And you might get a logo, you might find that there's something back that you can use for.
yeah.
I think I could really support, I think I could really support new windows in the front of the house. Or sorry. I think I could support, I think I could support restoring the windows, A, B, C, D, O, N, P. Everything on the front, new windows, E, F, L, J, M, K, and back.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
it's pretty cool. Everybody's seen.
I know.
Should we make a motion to reflect that? Essentially. I wrote down the letters purposely, so.
For COA 250039, 639 South.
Those are the original letters. I'm sorry.
What's our?
Ohio.
So thank you. Ohio Avenue. We would like to make a motion to approve new windows for 3/4 of the house, starting with LMJK, the back windows, and then on the other side, E and F. All other windows should be repaired or restored to the best condition possible.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I'll second. Having a motion and a second. Any further discussion, clarity, from staff?
Very good.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes.
All right.
Thank you. Can I, before I leave, just ask if I get
No.
in there and any of these are super damaged?
Come back.
Come
and
back,
discuss
okay.
with-
Okay,
But please, when you're taking out the old windows, look for salvageable parts, pieces, styles, sills,
Right.
anything that you can recycle.
I will pass that on to the contractors.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Nice work.
Jacqueline, what is our next case based on?
Our next case will be number 9. Number 8 was moved to staff.
Okay, 652 Linwood Avenue. Anybody here for 652 Linwood Avenue? Okay, we'll come back to that one. It's case number 10 for hearing today.
It's 1469, 1471 Brighton Road here.
Or if you could raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
Yes,
You state your full name and association with the property for record.
Eric Thacker.
Wonderful. Have a seat, sir.
This application for 1469, 1471 Brighton Road is for a variance recommendation request. An application for variance recommendations was initially moved to staff at the May 1st business meeting. However, the applicant was notified additional variances were identified by the zoning department. These are primarily related to existing conditions. So the staff recommendation is to recommend an affirmative recommendation of application COA 2500301 in the Brighton Road Historic District. And the basis for the staff recommendation is that the application is generally consistent with the city code 316.11 standards for alteration and the Columbus Register of Historic Properties architectural guidelines.
And this is basically only, we are a recommending body, not approving body on variances.
We have to, unfortunately, have this come back stay on the agenda, just because we have those 2 extra variances and we're not able to staff approve variances by the commission. So
And are you bringing any work for alteration to the exterior to the commission?
We're going to be bringing, do we bring code violation corrections, Jackie? I don't know if we.
yeah, so any exterior work that you're going to be doing, you want to make sure to submit an application.
It's code correction, code violation correction.
Yes.
Okay, so
any-
that's it.
Okay, it just because I bring that up, because I noticed there was dumpsters and crews working at this house just yesterday and I have to drive past it.
Yeah.
So, and I knew that we had this on the agenda, but we've not seen anything for the exterior. Just a reminder, please.
No, they're all doing inside only, yeah.
Okay. Hopefully you have permits on that too. I don't see any issues here with the variances. Anything else? If we get a motion to recommend approval,
So moved.
Second.
having a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Abstention?
No, just,
Passes.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Just double checking to make sure we don't have anyone here for 652 Linwood Avenue.
Okay. Then are we on to case number 11?
Yes, case number 11.
955 South High. If you raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony from commission this evening?
I do.
Please state your full name and association with the property for record.
Fitimi Bako, I'm the property manager.
Okay. Okay, cool.
This application for 955 South High Street is proposing to, a similar application that was previously approved. They're proposing to basically have that renewed. So that'd be rebuilding the front porch per the submitted drawings. And then the applicant let us know that the property is pending sale, but they wanted to keep this on the agenda just in case. And that way the application will still be discussed with the commission in case things don't move forward. So to summarize, the application for exterior alterations was originally approved by the Brewery District Commission at the September 2022 hearing. At the May business meeting for HRC this past month, the commission had asked if the applicant could take the drawings that were previously approved and have an existing photo next to the drawings side by side, just so this to be helpful to be able to clearly point to what changes have been done and what changes will need to be undertaken, easier visual comparison. The commission asked if any modifications from the approved design are proposed, and noted it should be very clear what the applicant is proposing to do to bring the property back into compliance. The staff recommendation is to recommend approval of application COA 2500317 955 South High Street in the Brewery District, with any and all clarifications to be submitted to HPO staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate. The basis of the staff recommendation is the City Code 316.11 standards for alteration, specifically numbers 2, 4, 5, 9, and 10, and then the guidelines regarding porches and stoops, and then the Brewery District guidelines as well for porches and stoops.
Is there anything the applicant would like to add at this time?
Not really. Yeah, we just wanted to make sure we keep this on the agenda in case the sale doesn't go through. And also get it renewed, just so like, if anything happens, we're ready to start working.
Or, so even if the sale goes through, they'll still have a code violation, right?
Yeah,
So they'll be correcting it then?
correct. Yeah.
Looks like we need to continue.
Yeah, it sounds like this has just been a continuance then at this
I'll make a
point.
motion to continue to the June HRC commission meeting.
So we want to be okay with, staff is proposing request for action to basically renew their application.
So it's just a renewal of the existing COC, right?
Correct.
Correct. Now, this is coming before the commission just in part because of the time it's been, but also the kind of newer porch that's been put in place in the meantime.
Okay. So they would basically, with this request to continue your certificate of application.
Yeah, correct. 'Cause-
You would go back and rebuild it to the.
Yes, because it had fallen, broken down. So we had to put some temporary stuff on there and also try to make it look okay in the meantime, but it's not the permanent solution.
Okay, perfect. So then I guess this is, you want to edit your motion?
So I do, I'd like to make a motion for, what's the case? COA 2500317 to renew the applicant's proposals for the 955 South High Street property.
Is there a second? Second. Having a motion and a second, is it clear for staff? Any questions?
Acceptable.
Thank you.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This gives you a little more time too.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Just stay in touch with staff and if your new owner has questions.
Yeah.
They're inheriting this work, obviously, just have them connect the check as well, make sure they understand the certificate.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Moving on to case number 12, 1091 South High. You can pull up another chair and I'll have you all raise your right hand. Come on. Do each swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
If you could each state your full name and association with the property for record.
Good.
Ted Weaver, Kessler Sign Company.
Okay.
Roger Kessler, Vice President, Kessler Sign Company, an applicant.
Okay, great.
Steve Sidwell, Construction Manager of Framingham Oil. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Pull the chair.
Thank you all for your time and patience.
Yes.
Okay, this application for 1091 South High Street is a conceptual review for new signage. So the proposal is to remove a current 32 square foot sign that's existing and also an 18 square foot sign in the front or south elevation of the gas station. And that would be the convenience store building. And so they'd like to replace those signs with a new 34 square foot sign at the front or south elevation of the building. The letters would be internally illuminated with channel letters, and then the logo portion of the sign would be internally illuminated with face illumination. The letters would read Duchess. The applicant would also like to install 2 new PVC signs to be pin mounted to the front awning. The sign would be reading founded in Ohio 1961, would be 2.45 square feet. And then the sign reading cold beer, deli subs, fresh, grab and go would be 5.91 square feet. The applicant would also like to propose painting the brick veneer on the main building and then the dumpster screening walls, and that would color be taupe white. The applicant also proposes to remove existing light fixtures and install 5 new gooseneck light fixtures at that front elevation. So this property consists of the gas station, including 2 fuel pump areas sheltered by canopies, and a convenience store built approximately 1985. The most recent approval we have on file is from 2008, and that's regarding signage. At the May business meeting, the commission noted concern about the facade moving away from that brick appearance to the white paint, and that being less compatible with historic structures in the area that would not have had brick painted historically. The commission noted that the boundary of the brewery district is at the Greenlawn Ave area, particularly at the west side, so the concern is that this would not introduce the historic district as effectively. The commission noted that even though the building is more contemporary in age, painting the brick veneer is a more modern treatment, not in keeping with the historic district. The commission asked to confirm if there are any proposed site changes, landscaping changes, changes to canopy over pumps, other elevations, etc. The commission noted that they appreciate the clarity of the design for the proposed new sign. The existing rectangular sign is more visually jarring, and that existing sign may have been installed without approval, so it may not be code compliant for the district. And then in order for the commission to be able to approve variations for what is required by signage standards, it noted that the applicant will need to make a case as to why there should be an exception granted from the signage guidelines. And the commission noted they'll have to evaluate on whether the sign as proposed is appropriate in scale, character, etc. So this is a conceptual application. So the staff recommendation is that the commission should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at a future HRC meeting, so no action is required. The basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code 3116.11 standards for alteration, specifically numbers 3, 9, and 12. The City Code 3116.13 standards for sign improvements, specifically letter C for signage. And then the short form design guidelines that the HRC uses for signage. That's just for general signage or general guidelines, wall signs, awnings, and then the HRC guidelines regarding signage, masonry, and painting.
Does the applicant have anything they'd like to add?
I do have a picture of another property we did that was very similar over in Reynoldsburg.
But not a historic district.
No, but I'm just kind of showing you what and how it looks.
I assume that's this photo in our packet.
That is that one, yes.
Yep, that's correct. So we'd be more than happy to listen to any comments you might have.
Have you had time to, you received a copy of the comments from the business meeting previously?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, is there anything you'd like to propose in your application that may be different from what you originally proposed based on those comments?
Obviously, the channel letters on the building look a lot better than the current rectangular sign on the front, as well as we're getting rid of the sign on the left-hand side there, completely doing away with that, and getting rid of that stripe on the awning and making it black or it'll actually it's Duranodic bronze, which looks black. So I think those are nice improvements, as well as the gooseneck lighting fixtures that will be black as well. So I think it makes it look substantially better than the current current signage and the current look of the building.
What if, I generally have not seen support in our commission for painting the brick.
We recognize that.
But you'd like to leave that request still on the table at this time.
Well, we'd like to hear what alternatives you might have.
So we are not the designer, so you would propose to us what your solution or any revisions to your proposal. I don't, I'm just one voice, and of course there are many others here that could vote quite differently. I don't think I'd be supportive for painting of brick. We just know that there's been inherent problems with painting masonry. And in this case, while it is not a historic building, it abuts the district. And I think the intent here is contextually to still, even though it's a modern building, have something that ties contextually to the historic district, i.e. just being natural masonry. I don't have any problems with your signage package as proposed though, but I will let others put out the road here. Others can provide their.
Okay.
I keep it simple, and I just echo Commissioner sentiments. Same opinion.
So I have the same opinion, but the sign is larger than what is typically approved, right? So I think that is my personal issue. I don't really see the benefit of substantially larger sign than what we would typically approve. So that would be my only comment. I agree the sign is light years better than what's there right now. It's just bigger than our typical approved size.
Do you feel differently, given that they are eliminating the one on the left?
Not really. I don't see the benefit of a substantially larger sign.
I would have to agree with that. And as far as the masonry goes, I think even the newer building that's going up across the street, High Street is still kind of playing into some of those historical elements, with some ties to kind of natural brick color. So seeing that remain more or less, I think is beneficial for the neighborhood. Stuart.
I do appreciate the updated signage in the front. I'm not a fan of the altering the color or the surface of the existing masonry that's existing there. I think what you proposed is a lot cleaner for the building, and I do admire that. I think the gooseneck lighting, that sort of thing, and that awning treatment as well, the finish on the corner of that is a grave improvement. So I think you're in the right direction. I think we need a little more time to let you develop what we have going here. I think we have a few things about perhaps how you want to treat the masonry. I'm not sure what after what the discussion was with the chair, you sort of looked at us for ideas, but really we look to you and give you guidance on what's approvable, not approvable, and what's appropriate. So that's sort of where I stand so far, what we have here.
Yeah, you have the right to ask us to vote on.
This is conceptual.
So, but this is conceptual. Okay. So in this case, so I guess there will be no vote on it. There's a mix or range of people's opinions here. If there's any ability to, it sounds like you would maybe gain a few more supporters with some adjustment to the overall size of the word Duchess and this crown-like symbol. I think nobody has said anything about, you know, the goosenecks or the other updated color components. And I think generally nobody's feeling warm and fuzzy about painting the brick.
Okay, I do have one question. We're getting ready to start another site similar to this. And we've run into the problem where the brick it's a thin brick. So it's starting to pop. So we are gonna have,
Like a veneer type?
yes.
Okay.
And that's what this is. The whole building is done in veneer.
Oh, okay.
So what we have proposed in this other site is to re-brick the front using it is still a lighter brick, but it would also be the thin brick. It's a French manor. And we proposed to do the front and wrap around the sides. And when we did that, they gave us the okay and then allowed us, since the sides weren't real visible from the roads, to paint the sides in the back. And you know, when I go back and discuss with our architect and our people in the office, if that would be something that would be.
There any current condition issues with this thin brick? Do you guys have any photography of the current condition, or is that a problem here as it is on your other property?
There are where there's been repairs. You can clearly see the cracks and stuff and where they've been replaced, and the masonry wasn't done up to code, what I would say up to code. So we are gonna have to do some major repairs to the front of this.
If you could, what would be really handy is you may want to submit a report from your masonry subcontractor and give a lot of photos related to that condition. Because I think on a newer building, you know, if you said you wanted to replace masonry with a new masonry, you would maybe consider that just based on it's okay, it's a modern structure, but as long as the color was acceptable, everything else. But I think you just have to make your case for it.
Assuming there's issue of need like deterioration, failure of what's existing, that sort of thing. But yeah, I think photos are a great thing. So take photos of the corners, the repaired areas, the joints, you know, all those things, so we can kind of get a good idea of exactly what's going on.
And since you're now that we're talking about the construction, reconstruction of the brick, going back to the sign itself, we have suggested in the past to allow architectural elements. So if you would like to separate off the crown from the word Duchess, that could possibly allow you to have an enlarged Duchess as the sign, and then the crown becomes an architectural element, possibly on that far left brick wall. That would be an option if you wanted to play around with a few ideas and bring that.
That is a very good point. We have had, as some modern buildings have had to tackle modern signage needs, is if your crown is part of it, it can be pushed as an architectural feature element rather than.
It's our corporate logo, so it's for separating it.
You'll need to make
I'll
sure
get slapped on the hand big time.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that, though. I think we probably can, I'm not sure we can get down to the exact square footage that you have. I think it was 25 square feet or something like that. But I think we can get closer.
Where are we at right now? What's the square footage?
34.
34.
And I'm not sure exactly how they're measuring that, so I'm gonna go back and.
Staff can always provide you the calculation of it if that is in there.
I'll get the handy measurements up here.
And the probably corporately, they want the crown to be a certain proportion to the lettering.
Correct.
Okay. So that's not on the table either, looking at.
No.
Scale like dimensions. Okay.
And just to clarify, there are no other improvements to your package, like the canopy and the site plan, all that. That was just a question.
At this current time, there's none that we're aware of.
Okay.
But
Just want to clarify.
we're dealing with BP Corporate out of London. So who knows what they're gonna.
And is there also like a blade or anything out of the curb or anything else?
We have two freestanding road signs, one on each corner, that are not illuminated, or not internally illuminated, but externally illuminated. And
Are those getting changed?
no, Not at this time,
So no modification.
no.
And do those have permit already? Because the old COAs look like they're all BP, not Duchess branded.
I think, taking a look at this file, there wasn't a whole lot of COAs in the past, so it's been, yeah, a number of years
What's current?
for the
What is
existing
it?
stuff.
And we bought these from BP. So what went on in the past, I'm not sure. How they dealt with things.
So we'll see you next month.
Sure.
Any other questions?
That work for you, Steve? Yeah.
And
You guys get enough feedback? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was very good. I think,
Rick, stuff to talk about, signage, we got a good idea, you're on the right path, I think what you're doing is great, keep it up.
okay.
And then before we conclude, I just wanted to get commission feedback on the lighting. I know guidelines says particular lighting. This is a gas station location. If there's any feeling of that deviating from the guidelines, if the commission is comfortable or not, just that feedback.
I think the gooseneck is perfectly acceptable here.
Oh, sorry, I meant the signage interior lighting.
Oh,
Are you talking about the backlit detail?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's typically for lighting, we can do exterior lighting or halo lit where there's no light that comes through the face of the leather of the object, but it's sort of backlit. So this is a little bit different than what our guidelines would normally say.
Yeah, we can bring pictures of the nighttime shot. It's a really neat look. And remember, we're 24/7 facility, and the illumination is key for a lot of reasons.
Is that a pretty good representation of what?
Yeah, that's pretty much it, yes.
So you've got a halo from the LEDs, and the LEDs are having some lighting effect on the letters, which are semi-transparent, right?
Right.
You get the kind of glowing that color.
Yeah, the faces are transparent, and then it's open in the, but not open, but clear in the back, and it hits against the wall, and
It's shining through.
yeah,
How many panels, are they all white and then they're
clear, totally clear.
Okay.
maybe you'd be able to, this one that you showed us in Reynoldsburg, maybe you could just get some nighttime photos of it.
Yeah, we certainly can. Yeah, that'd probably be
It's the same construction proposal.
pretty much yes, yeah, except for it's white brick, which I'm getting a feeling that you don't want white brick. Am I on the right page here?
Yeah, I think you're reading the room pretty well.
Okay.
Great, we'll see you in June.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Don't forget
Okay.
to submit all your information to staff 2 weeks prior to our meeting. What is the date for this submission? Is it a week from today?
Yeah, we come
So,
to
sorry.
today. So
I misspoke.
not this Friday, but next Friday is if you want to be on for the next month.
Yeah, well, we definitely
If you
need
want-
to. So,
Be on the agenda as opposed to being currently as a,
yeah, we'll be looking for approval,
okay,
whatever that is.
all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Moving on to the next conceptual application, that would be 1462 Bryan Road. If you could raise your right. You swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening.
I do.
If you can state your full name and association with the property for record.
Bart Overly, Blowstein Overly Architects.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to stay in front.
Okay, not a problem. Let the record reflect abstention. Check.
Okay, this application for 1462 Brandon Road, it has been placed as a conceptual application by staff at this time. Just to let you know, the applicant is interested in having this be a request for action. We placed it as conceptual because it wasn't complete at the time of submission. And then there's a few outstanding questions we just want to make sure that are answered. So the proposed work is for exterior alterations, and that includes removing the existing metal canopy, concrete terrace, and the approach steps. The applicant would like to install a new wraparound porch to match the footprint shown on the Sanborn maps. The porch would have a mortar limestone foundation wall, black rubber membrane roofing, cedar flooring, 1x4 ton and roof ceiling, and 1x4 ton and roof wood flooring with clear coat finish. The applicant would like to remove the door entrance on the right-hand or westerly side of the primary facade and install a new wood window. The applicant would like to infill the remaining opening of the converted door to a window with reclaimed brick and new limestone lintels and sills to match the existing adjacent stone lintels and sills. The applicant would also like to add a new limestone steps to the side entry at the east end, to add a new concrete walk from the proposed wraparound porch to the side entry steps, and enclose the east elevation concrete walk with a new retaining wall, and that retaining wall was the exterior limestone retaining wall with decorative iron rail on top. There's a landscaping and hardscaping component. The applicant would like to add plantings, including manicured boxwood, Japanese bloodgrass, miniature juniper near the east elevation retaining wall. They would like to regrade the front lawn and have that be raised, and then install a new retaining wall at the south property line, terminating at the front porch on the easterly side, and then terminating near the southwest corner of the parcel on the westerly side. That new retaining wall would be 2-foot mortar limestone, and then it'd have a decorative iron rail on top. So an application for exterior alterations, demo, a new addition was previously approved at the March 2022 HRC hearing. And an application for conceptual review was reviewed at the September 2024 HRC hearing. So just a heads up, Columbus zoning staff had previously identified that some portions of the property might be within the right of way, with that should be vacant older properties and right of way falling, even though it's looks like an existing parcel. At the May business meeting, the commission noted that they appreciate the new drawings that are very helpful and noted that they are not able to support the split face concrete that was initially proposed, and noted that the materiality will be critical. The applicant has submitted revised documents. These do show taller fencing on top of the retaining walls. The site plan clarifies that the rearward privacy fence is existing, and then the proposal for an iron rail on top of the retaining wall has been revised with the proposed iron rail to be 3 feet instead of the prior 1 foot 4 inches. The total height of the landscape wall has been revised to be 5 feet on the sidewalk, and exterior materials and finishes have been added to the application materials. And then finally, the porch foundation has been revised, and that will be a mortared limestone wall instead of the previously proposed split face concrete block wall. So with this being a conceptual review, no action is required, so the commission should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine their proposal for review at a future HRC meeting. The basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code 316.11 standards for alteration, specifically numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, and 12, and then the City Code 3116.13 standards for site improvements, letters A and B, and then the guidelines regarding porches and stoops and access. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, gonna have anything they'd like to add before we open up to questions?
Well, this is our second go round with this same site. So just a couple, I mean, I think there are two big issues. The one is this wraparound porch, which I have, I went to the site today and got a couple photos that are closer up that show you the ghosting of the porch that was there. I can give you that.
And as I recall, there was a porch concept even the first time being floated. We talked about it.
It was, and it was smaller. The details of the columns are identical, essentially identical to that proposal back in 2022. Although the porch has expanded and wrapped around the corner so that we can tie in, there's this kind of secondary entrance to the north, which has a metal canopy that I noticed in the business meeting notes. The question was, will there be any additional damage caused by removing that at this time? It's not really doing anything. It's, if you look at that photo that I floated around, there's actually sunlight coming behind it, so it's not doing a thing right now. But anyway, we're tying that secondary entrance, which is no longer going to be an entrance. It's I think the current owner has turned that into a bathroom behind that door, so that's a non-functioning door which will be restored. But there is a kind of raised small patio that's going to tie that fake entrance together with the porch area, so they can put a little bistro table there behind the limestone retaining wall and wrought iron rail system. So the height of the landscape wall, retaining wall piece, is 5 feet from the sidewalk. It's a 2-foot mortared limestone retaining wall. We're leveling out the front lawn, relocating the walkway, because of the new spacing of the porch. And the client has been here in the past, so I think they came in September of 2024. I don't have, outside of what I saw in the staff report, I don't have any information from that meeting, but they had told me that conceptually, your commission approved the idea of putting the 3-foot fence on top of the limestone base. And I think we would be willing to, if there's like a landscaping issue of, maybe pulling that back a little bit from the Bryden Road elevation so that we could incorporate a small planter bed that would wrap around, where we have a much deeper bed on the east side, we could do that. But I think the height of it was important to them so that this new lawn elevation, they would have a rail system that would be appropriate with that new elevation of the lawn. So I don't know.
Well, I'll be interested to hear what the rest of the commission thinks. My big thing was I support the wraparound porch and the reuse of it, taking one of the doors that got added, taking that back away. And, the ghosting is evident on the porch, and then thank you for hearing the concern about the split face block and changing out of the foundations. Just something that has architectural character. Don't forget material samples when you need the full scale approval.
Okay.
Just so kind of we're aware of it though, what is driving the need for truly these landscape retaining walls?
I think the client really wants they certainly want a flat and elevated front lawn area, which is precipitating the need for this low retaining wall. And then they want it to be a space that I think they have some dogs and they'd like to be able to, utilize that space, and have it as a protective rail system at that new elevation. So that's really what's driving the overall height. Originally, as Jacqueline mentioned, we came in with the original drawings and we were taking everything, keeping it at 3 feet, and they're like, no, we really want to try and get that elevation.
I kind of understand like what you're doing between like right alongside the house where you have that small section of wall where you go from the wraparound porch back
Scoop
to
it
the other
down.
door.
Yeah.
The problem on the front wall that then comes out on Bryden Road is we had issues with other cases here in the Bryden Road district with retaining wall requests and altering grading. And, we had even when that escalated to legal action against this commission. And I just don't see the precedent existing for this. I can be convinced on why you need this. I don't know that I can be convinced on any of that. Just without kind of being in conflict with the other kids we've had in the Bryden Road district that we've had to say essentially no to. So to me, it has to be a real hard upsell of what significant special circumstance you have that would require that, so that we're not setting a precedent that's contrary to everything we've done in the last several years.
I think another thing to consider is as well, the original landscape plan for that particular stretch. If you take a look down Brighton, you'll see there's not a lot of breakup in the lawns. They all typically roll down based on the topography of the street and the elevation. So again, this would be not consistent with what was originally the architectural plan, landscape plan of that district at the time.
If I can add, just for the September conceptual hearing, I think what the applicant was sort of responding to, the commission had seen some photos of, I think, a prior retaining wall that was at least documented there in the 1990s. So that might have been part of it. And then I know the applicant had expressed concern, at least at the time, about basement windows kind of being kicked in or just some security concerns. And that might be solved by the other retaining wall. I think that might have been part of it. So some of that discussion that started to came for possible support of a retaining wall. Did discuss specific heights, but the possible retaining wall in the front to kind of make that 1990s documentation. So that's what I recall from the September conceptual. We might have those previous materials, we can just take a look.
Yeah, was originally proposed like a 5 foot tall fence or something?
It was a kind of a heavy, more masonry, like brick columns with
Okay.
packs. So the commission at that time said they're really heavy, too heavy visually,
Yeah.
and could support like an all iron metal design potentially. And so some of the suggestion was maybe some landscaping to accompany a fence to soften the fence appearance to kind of solve that issue there. So a couple of those discussion points came up at the prior conceptual last year.
And I think that's, and
Now I do recall this discussion.
Yeah.
So go to the next page. So this was the proposal. So I
Yeah.
think what we said is an iron fence would be something. I
uh,
don't know that, I don't recall during the context of this, though, ever thinking about a retaining wall.
Or the piers are still.
well, I think that sort of has come, and I do appreciate the kind of historic berming of, yeah, there's your low landscape retaining.
Can you zoom in on that just a little? It's pretty old. Well,
Easy to remove.
this is a rare thing, because look at how the berming.
It must have had roll off under the.
And they must have cut down the whole front lawn then, when they took away the wall too.
They must have wiped the street.
Would your proposal include sort of reconstructing this berming that's missing as well, potentially?
You mean grading it? We could do that. We could pull it down a little bit. I think that,
I could be sold of why you need a retaining wall to go back to this condition.
yeah. I mean, it looks like that might be 18 inches and we're proposing 2 feet. So I think that we could easily
Just lower your wall down.
lower it a little bit. We could even, I think that's coming right up to the sidewalk as we're proposing. So we could either keep it like that, or we could pull it back a little bit and introduce a small landscaped area between the sidewalk and the,
I think, I mean, the photo shows it right to the sidewalk.
you're fine with
You're
that.
recreating a historic feature.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing most people sort of say, yeah, we could support that.
I think we've got some photos.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
photo is clincher.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a very.
that's good.
We're just talking about the wall.
Thank you for bringing the photo.
No.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel though about the fence on top of the wall. I
Right.
think if you put the wall in, you know, maybe you're gonna still consider a fence. It's just a bit much on the top of the wall. Yes, yeah, there you go, yeah, invisible fence.
Well, I mean, I think that the fence, I can definitely go back and we can talk through this. I think it's kind of,
All or nothing sort of.
well, they want that kind of sense of some buffer from the street, even though we're not proposing a gate.
Right.
It's just basically we're folding the fence inward along the steps, but it's a kind of psychological barrier to the street. And also it would, you know, if we did anything that was lower, I mean, even at 18 inches, we've got some safety issues of falling off of the retaining wall and onto the sidewalk.
Potential to maybe consider some sort of landscape element that could serve that same purpose along those
Hedge
lines.
lines.
Maybe a hedge right on the top of the road, but.
We could, if the commission is willing to somehow separate the porch from this retaining wall piece, and if we could maybe get some sort of a partial approval on this tonight, we could go back and talk through the retaining wall and.
Conceptually, we're all okay with the porch.
I just have one question with the porch. For the graphics are amazing. I was thinking, Jacqueline, that this is a really good package in terms of just example of really clear graphics and detail. I just want to make note of that, appreciation of the attention to detail here. The one element that I haven't seen is there any proposed demolition of existing material? Now, I know this has come before the commission in the past, but I just don't have a recollection, and I didn't see any demolition drawings that illustrate any removal of material, or is this all real additive?
This is additive. I mean, the thing that we're demolishing is a 1950s metal.
It's just that little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we do also replace it. This house used to be a double. It's never been approved as a double, but it has two doors under the porch, and part of this proposal is removing the door to the right and replacing it with a window. And so we would have to come back with some brick samples that match
Staff
this.
could potentially approve that depending on how.
Yeah.
The footprint of the, the footprint of the porch is staying, right? What's existing,
It's changing a little bit, but it's
Okay.
negligible. It's not getting deeper this way. It might be actually getting a little shallower from east to west.
So for your comfort, Mike, we talked about at the meeting, I recall, going from two doors down to one, being a unique scenario because the house never had two doors.
Sure.
It was an alteration, kind of undoing the alteration. Hence why there's a rare approval of an infill.
Yeah. And all of that is identical to the 2022 project.
Is there any way possible to salvage brick from another facade? And I always say that because this is your primary elevation. You're right.
Perhaps.
Front door.
Yeah, and
That's a really big eye, and that's a beautiful front entrance.
Yeah.
It'd be really sweet if you could pull some bricks right around that addition on the back, on the inside behind there or something.
we can look. I mean,
Just a thought.
our scope is pretty limited on this project, and I know that they've got some other future things that they want to do with the property, but
Neat property. It's really.
what's that?
It's a really neat property. I think.
Yeah, oh, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's worth taking into consideration.
Right. So if we can salvage some brick, we would do it, but we will certainly come back with the exact brick. We're pretty good at finding a brick that is going to match, and we'll tooth it in. It's not gonna be like a seam and.
Sounds good. I would be okay with busting it into two pieces. We could do an A and a B, if you wouldn't mind making the proposal of the.
And before we get to that, some of just for our reference, the property that had been called up before by zoning that possibly being a portion of public right of way. Has there been anything like revised to that or anything that needs to be addressed?
Well, the only thing that I see is that the city requires a 30-foot vision triangle at the corner of this site, which would include most of the porch on this project. So we would want the HRC to recommend that vision triangle be reduced for our purposes.
I think you have a very clear-cut case for supporting the variance on vision triangle.
I would hope.
I'll support the vision.
Which is whatever specific variance that you would have, we just need to have that proposed. That way the commission can make the recommendation.
Right. And so I think that would be the variance that we're gonna have to circle back with city zoning on.
Were you looking to move from a conceptual to a full approval this evening, unfortunately?
We would like to get if the commission supports it, we'd like to get a full approval on the porch piece and the demolition of the existing metal portions, and then we'll come back for the landscape and the retaining wall portion.
The pathway of variance versus the porch, so.
They can't do the porch till they get building permit has to be issued to those.
But it lets us get that
Take
part
that.
moving, yeah.
And it does help make your case for the visions, the triangle.
Are we talking about this piece as well as being approved today, or is that?
We could-
Be okay.
If you're okay with that, yeah.
Is it there?
Yeah,
If somebody would want to make a motion only on that piece, it doesn't have to be broken into an A or a B, because you can basically, we're in conceptual stage still for everything else.
We'll come
So
back.
we'll just come back for any further work, as long as the motion is very explicit that it's only that portion you just pointed out.
I would ask the applicant, could you state what it is that you're looking for approval on more specifically, so then I can try to echo that and make sure that we're in alignment.
okay, so we're looking for approval of the demolition of the existing metal canopies. There are two. And the demolition of the second entrance under the porch and replacement with a window, and the construction of the new wraparound porch and retaining wall and fencing to the north of that porch. The north only, yeah.
And then for the commission, I thought I heard that we were gonna wait on more until we saw the brick changes there.
I
Or,
would suggest we fund the infill brick to staff approval
okay,
for applicant to work with staff on the infill.
okay.
Because that way you could, if you need to verify field match or something, you should check, just go in the field to see the samples.
Okay. All right, give it a shot. Make a motion on COA 2500-396-1462, Riot Road, to approve the following. Removal of the metal canopy structures that are existing. The construction of the new porch elements, excluding any of the retaining wall and fencing structures, but inclusive of the retaining wall feature to the north of the porch. And move to staff approval, the coordination of the demolition of the existing door and subsequent infill.
There's a motion, is there a second? Second. Having a motion and a second. The only discussion you said like bring up is, could we also proactively potentially have a subsequent motion to support the applicant's request for a variance for a vision triangle, so they don't have to come back to us yet again?
I think we would need the official.
You need official paperwork.
I mean, if it's something that, you know, we have
So
full commission and like the business meeting, certainly is something that we can move to staff.
Okay, you need to see the paperwork, okay.
so we'll go back and yeah,
I think we're supportive of that, though.
Yes.
yeah.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstention, one abstain, record, motion passes.
Okay.
And then we will look forward to, for record, you're going to come back with landscaping and wall detailing, everything else for everything south of the porch and on the front lawn.
Sounds good. Thank you all.
Also, yeah, great drawings too. Yeah,
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. See ya.
Good drawings, good drawings.
It's good stuff.
It's good for you. That's fine.
Right along this way then.
On to case number 14, 1036 South Front Street. Do you mind if we just take a 2-minute recess?
Sure.
For restrooms?
Yeah,
Thank
we're the
you.
last
We're gonna-
last one you
we're
guys
gonna
been
take a
going.
brief recess at 6:05 p.m. Thank you.
No recess, no recess.
I think we just gotta get two of them, three of us.
Yeah, you get this back.
And then watch. No, see you and yes, so much. Especially that's overall. We did. I get the answer to my question again, that's just this year. They get it, so over policy, I parents. Yes, money. They really pushed it also. Every time. I was in the city. Yeah. So I think it's because they present you.
Yeah.
You can just. Yeah, that's right. Now everything, but it's right. Right. It balance. Just a fast chair. It's fun. Chair.
Break.
She's here. She's really. Like what the fellowship goes, it's gonna be longer. See? This, I'll do that, and Jamie told me, he had been commissioned, they were good. And now we got somebody can. Percent. It's.
Which is that goes the
But this one has streets on four sides. This is could keep bringing the market.
It takes over, it would take, I mean, it takes over the whole, what, each side.
A little bit, they could, but he said. Yes. Wasn't range, so.
Getting all your plans in place.
We are,
I didn't think.
it's been crazy.
So.
My husband just got sworn in yesterday,
This will be relocate.
citizen, so he did that. And he usually have it on this.
Like staying time, huh? Wow.
We don't know how long it's gonna take these days.
Hey, what is it, only like 90 or something? 90?
To get the passport back? Yeah, something like that. I mean, we tried to move expedite everything, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. Right.
Speaking of,
What do you
August 31st, so there's.
Sure.
Right. Just.
And also you could, I guess you could have a monthly there, because with your
About that too.
visa could be covering for a while.
Exactly, yeah. I've got these.
Okay.
Good. Okay, we're gonna reconvene here at 6:08 PM. And if I could have each of you stand and raise your right hands. Do you each swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
If you could each state your full name and association with the property for record.
I'm Scott Patton with Arcadia Development.
I'm Doug Tenenbaum with Hannah Commercial, and I'm marketing the property.
Dave Rechtenwald Studio Architects.
Okay.
David Maleka, Moody Allen, architect.
Craig Moncrief, attorney, Plank Law Firm.
Thank you. Jack?
This application for 1036 South Front Street, this is a conceptual application, so we're proposing demolition, to demolish the Swiss chalet style building, and then new construction, so to construct a 6-story apartment building, close to parcel, and the first floor parking garage, with that be using those combined parcels. Materials would include vinyl windows, cement panel, hardware cement panel siding, tan brick siding, and concrete tile amenity terrace. So at the May business meeting, the commission had asked if there had been anything submitted that looks like the existing kitchen building. The commission noted that they see setbacks are starting to be accommodated in the front elevation. Understand there will be more information to come. The commission noted it will be important for the applicant design team to give a good sense about what the proposed building will feel like from the perspective of a person walking at the streetscape at the sidewalk level, and then including what you would see in the podium structure. So some questions to answer would be, will front-facing garage be apparent through the lighting at night, revealing the cars parked inside? The commission noted that the treatments of the podium can be done delicately, can be dressed up and disguised, may take other resources, but currently seen a very transparent parking structure, including the facades to the south and north. The commission noted that the buildings to the north and south will face the proposed structure. The access points will be critical to understand with people entering and exiting and headlights. The commission noted they're seeing some good detail coming out, but still need a lot more effort placed on the first floor experience to avoid looking like a parking garage. The commission requested documentation that the applicant has explored incorporating the existing building architecture into the design. The commission noted that apart from the photos of the inside, it would be helpful to understand the case that the original building retains or no longer retains integrity. We'd like to understand what the original building was and what has changed. The commission recommended a thorough presentation of how much the building is truly left from the original, and it may be helpful if the applicant could annotate or draw out what would have been the original roof line to show the original shape of the roof has changed, such as an overlay to provide clarity on what is original versus a new piece, and then including the dates of alterations would be helpful for the commission to be able to evaluate. And the commission noted it is good to have documentation of existing structures, such as technical drawings, asked if staff could provide past example documentation that was done for historic structure in poor shape on West Rich Street to the applicant, not requesting that the applicant do work at this time, but can be helpful to see what may be required prior to demolition. And then just a staff note that I'm going to have to ask or coordinate with the commission on just the particular property we're able to locate that one. That way we could forward that to the applicant for their future reference there. So I'll skip over the past commission comments for prior hearings and meeting minutes, and then some of the staff report items that were previously read out after the past conceptual review, unless there's anything in particular that the commission thinks would be helpful to read out loud. And then we'll just jump to the staff recommendation. With this being a conceptual application, no action is required. So the recommendation is that the commission offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at a future HRC meeting. The staff recommendation basis is the city code, Title 34, A10040. That's the applicability of Title 31, Dungeons and Preservation Code. And then the city code 316.12, standards for new construction, just kind of in general. And then the city code 316.14, standards for demolition. And the city code 316.017 for definitions, letters P, Q, and R for property. And then the guidelines for window replacement. And with that, I'll hand over to the commission.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to open this up to the applicant, and you can walk us through what proposed changes have been made since the last meeting.
100%. And we appreciate it. This is our third time coming to the commission, and we appreciate all the thoughtful comments, and it's helped us with direction as we move forward with the project. My name, like I said earlier, is Scott Pat. I'm the developer with Arcadia Development. I would like to take a second just to give you an idea of how we approach this site and how we got to the point we are with, with our design. We've spent a lot of time making sure that we involve our architects, our engineers, our zoning attorneys, and also, our general contractors, if there's some constructability issues. In this case, there was because of an existing structure. We've done many visits to this site. When we approached it, we looked at the existing building. We looked at ways that we talked about ways as a team that we could integrate this existing building. We had our construction experts take a look at the building and give feedback on, again, from a constructability and from just the shape of the building. So those are all things that we've done through this process. We spent a lot of time looking at the design criteria that the design criteria for the district. We spent a lot of time looking at the overlay for the district. I know that zone in from your standpoint is not a consideration, although from our, as a developer and from the messaging of the leadership in the city is that, zone in is a big step in the direction to try to alleviate some of the pressures that we're facing here in Columbus on the affordability. And it's projects like this, it's going to help us. So yes, we do pay attention to the zone in. My question is, if we're not, then why did we do zone in? And that's why, we understand the significance of that. So we did take that into consideration. What you're gonna see, with the proposed project, what we think it represents a significant opportunity to address the city's housing shortage, economic development goals. It adds much needed residential units, both market rate and affordability is what we've designed, because this is a high density, it's been identified as a high density corridor, which allows for the affordability bonus, and that's the project that we positioned. On top of that, we worked with Moody Nolan to ensure that the design building that represents the material palette and architectural rhythm of the neighborhood, while still delivering the Columbus's smart growth principles. It's a site that has been sat underutilized. It is a surface parking lot. It's a 1960s Swiss chalet. And again, we'll go through in great detail the building from when it was constructed and the building that we have here today as it sits today. We'll go through great detail of that later on in the presentation. But again, it's underutilized, and this project will bring new life to this housing, like I said, including long-term value to the area is the way we look at that. With that, again, I appreciate the time. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of perspective of how we approach this. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Doug Tannenbaum with Hannah Commercial Realty. The owner has already been here and spoken under oath to the economic challenges that he has and the hardship that he has. Doug has been working with the owner for more than a year, again, trying to work on the disposition of this. And I'm going to turn it over to him so he can talk a little bit about those efforts and what they've done here, again, over more than a year period.
Thanks very much. The owner asked me if I could be here today, just walk you through some of the efforts that we've made. We've had this property on the market for over a year. We've been on the market previously, but this time around, we've had interest from both developers and also people for adaptive reuse. And so far, we've had dozens and dozens of people walk through the property, and we have not had anybody yet who's expressed interest in being able to use the property for some kind of reuse. And the biggest issue is that the property is just in disrepair. And so I don't know. We've had just about every developer who's looking for an urban infill project from in town and out of town look at the property. We've been in contract a couple of times, and we are back in contract now with Scott. And it's our hope, the owner's hope, that we can, move this project forward. And, I guess given the owner's hardship. And so that's all I wanted to say, was just to walk you through that we have been down this road for over a year this time around, and that's recent history. So, thank you.
Unless you have any questions, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dave, who's going to go and walk through the existing structure. Again, the existing structure as it was, we were able to find a 1964 photo, which shows the existing structure as just a rectangle building, and you'll be able to, and Dave will go into, again, all the changes and alterations that have happened to the building since then. But go ahead, Dave.
I'm Dave Rechtenwald. I'm an architect that Randy has asked, or the owner has asked me to take a look at some of the exterior and some of the condition of the existing materials. I paid attention to some of the bullet points that were in the previous commission notes about the condition and the existing materials, and trying to figure out what exactly was original and how this thing kind of evolved over time. So I put together my little report. Do you have the first page, or the second page maybe? It shows a site plan.
You had it up. It's going to be the. It's another document right there.
Okay. This sheet, the top photo is an ODOT shot. Is that right, Craig? ODOT shot from 1964 that shows the original building and the original entry location. It's just a simple rectangular building, a parking lot. The second photo down is the 1979 shot, which is roughly where it is now. Just to give you an idea of the size of how it's grown.
Specifically the roof lines. I mean, take a look at the roof line of the 1964. It's just a single typical, rectangle roof line. And now I think there's probably, maybe 5 or 4 roof lines or something that the building consists of because of all the alterations. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We'll get in a little bit farther. The second sheet is, again, just going around the building, looking at what was expanded, what was not original. The main addition to the right of this top image here is the ad for the kitchen and the toilet rooms. And I believe that's occurred sometime between 74 and 79. So that was never there. Obviously, this roof was overlay framed and they kind of pushed it down and gave a little bit of a swooping roof line to.
To be clear, basically those four
That's
windows on the
correct.
front, that's with the original structure. And that's it.
That's correct, on the left.
100%. And then it was just shotgun back from there.
And then the lower photo, again, so that's a little bit more close in on that original end. It's overgrown there and we can't see the original door, but we'll get to that. Second.
Sorry, what's this point here, this paragraph?
That's the side entry that they added once the building was overlay framed after the roof damage and they extended that out, and that's where it's now considered the main entryway, and that's where you enter into a landing, and then you split up or down from there.
And that's I mean, the interior also, again, it was just on slab, and now all that existing just slab on grade is gone, and they've done inside, it's recessed and it's multi-leveled. Again, they'll go into that a little bit too.
Page 3, if we keep going there.
And I guess the only reason I want to highlight that is because from the standpoint, I've moved houses before. I mean, you know, we don't go into developments looking to demo houses that, you know, that we understand the significance of these neighborhoods. And so we take that seriously. We have moved houses in the past, but again, this house is just does not allow that because of all the additions to it. And there are no floor joists. It all just kind of sinks in, and then it's all block up to the grade.
Okay. That second photo on the bottom there. Again, just highlighting some of the things that were added, the metal door, the rails, the service entryway, the concrete stairs. Just not typical details of what we would find for what we have period structure or something like this, but that's more of a function for the kitchen. Next page.
And that whole elevation, that's an addition.
It's all addition.
All in addition.
I mean, it was not, none of that was original.
This is modified.
Now, this is the east elevation. Obviously, there's nothing remarkable here other than some painting that was to cover some graffiti. But I did note that there's a sinkhole in the alley here, and this is a prime concern now. There's water getting into the foundation, and it's moving through the building and trickling into a floor drain. And this has been ongoing, and I know the owners called the city many times to try and get this resolved. But since I had been there, I've not seen anything done, and the water is starting to increase. You can actually hear it moving through the cores of the basement wall. And last time I was there, it was about 1 inch thick. So not good. And it's moved through some of the offices and one of the main corridors. I suspect by now it's the drywall in some of these partitions.
It's impacting the foundation system, the integrity of the foundation system of the building.
And the east is newer or original or addition, that elevation that we're looking at there.
The skin of that's going to be add.
So,
and that's part of the overlay frame of the original roof.
Okay.
So what you're seeing there is new or added. The roof, we'll see that in just a second, is just inside that roof that you see there.
Right, they took there was a gable going this way and then they added on a gable going this way, more or less.
Correct. And that gable going this way, more or less, kind of.
Involved the old one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we'll see that where I was able to walk up the shingles and I got a shot of that.
And they piecemeal that together, we're assuming after the fires, when that stuff happened.
The bottom shot, that's the north elevation where there's some block windows that were placed. Obviously not original.
If you will, this would be the most original elevation at this point.
This one, I would say no. Probably that sliver portion that faces front where the door is, and we'll take a look at that in a sec.
And I would guess that the balcony that was on that side that you're seeing was added, because it only makes sense because the cable comes through.
Yep.
So I don't think that balcony was original.
Page 5, next one.
The one on the bottom right there, yeah.
On the left.
Because that whole roof line's new.
Yes, the roof line's new. That's where the cross gable comes
Yeah.
in. Yes. Okay, next page, I just get into some of the details. I think we kind of covered this in the last time where I looked at some of how these things fastened, how are they put together. Somewhat unremarkable with just screws and flathead nails, not necessarily what we would normally see for some of these details. So I wanted to highlight that.
The barbed wire is a key characteristic of this Swiss chalet too. I'm being sarcastic.
Of course he is. So the stucco finish was reworked some time ago, so it's in decent shape. Then the roof, taking a close look at the roof shingles, they're just about shot. And they're gonna need to be replaced. Page 6, a few more details, a little bit closer, where you can see some of the fasteners, how the things are put together. Some of the wood pieces are, again, kind of unremarkable. It almost looks like they just took what they had on site and cut these shapes and applied them in there. And then page 7, up in the roof, these 3 shots give you an idea what's up there and how the mechanical system is cut through the old roof. The top shot is just a general view. The bottom 2 are where we can see the cross gable. And that's moving up the existing shingles. Yeah, that's a good definition of a concealed space. So I'm not quite sure how the building department would look at that, or the fire department. But again, if we had to add on to this type of thing, we'd have to address it. It's about 3,200 square feet, which is greater than 3,000 square feet, which is the draft stopping square footage limitation. So we would have to address it somehow, but I don't think the fire department would like this type of a concealed space. But this is a good example of how the roof is overlay framed and just kind of scabbed. And the last sheet, the 2 main entryways. I took a look at these. I mean, after looking at the Front Street door, that looks pretty original. And it's showing signs of age. It has some of the existing hardware, but it's also been the prime entryway for vandalism. And the stops on it are shot. I know that inside, the owner's got a 2x6 in there, kind of bracing that door to keep people from getting in there. And then, of course, the other entryway, that's the black door there that you see on the left, was added by the Swiss Club and trimmed out, and that became their main entryway with their new light fixtures, their lantern fixtures. So in closing, you're just trying to look at all the details here and find out, how many times this thing was added to. It's kind of a conglomeration of over time. There's nothing really original other than these doors you see and the bricks in the chimney. Those are the only 2 things remaining in and outside of this building that I could see. So that concludes what I've looked at. And again, it's just a conglomeration over time. It's almost like Frankenstein's monster. It's just a combination of different things over different time periods with different owners.
And I mean, to emphasize, the only things that we can find that are original is this front door and then the chimney. And as it was discussed in a previous presentation, we're committed to integrating those doors in some type of ornamental, fashion as far as on the lobby, and then also integrating trying to salvage and save the bricks from the original chimney, and then try to integrate that into the design. Obviously, we have brick facade on what we're proposing on the new building.
So following through the commission notes, I tried to give a snapshot of the existing materials and what was new, and what might be from the original. So that's it.
Unless you have any questions, and I'm going to turn it over to Craig.
I think I was gonna go.
Okay, go ahead, David.
Do the architect.
Before you go on, I just want to open this up at this point to the commission. Is there anybody who has any questions about the integrity of the historical significance of the building at this point in time? Ask anything to this consultant before we move on to other pieces of their presentation.
If we could look at the north elevation, I did have a question there. Someone had brought up, but I think I understand the way that roof was added on. But I do just want to clarify that this structure going back at some point was original, right?
That's correct.
So I guess, do we have any proof? I think this was stated that this was all additive,
That's correct.
but do we have any proof of that was additive? Because there was a mass that went back at some point. I understand that this roof came over top. I want to make sure we're correctly representing what your knowledge is of the structure, because I'm just curious, what elements were original?
Without a side elevation, I couldn't exactly tell you, but from what I see when I'm up in the roof, that cross gable does go up and it covers over a portion of that existing framing. There's still a truss in there. That's the existing roof.
Sure.
So, but it's hard to tell. I think that's where part of the damage is, that I can't tell how far exactly that would go.
Can I be out aerial?
I was gonna say, I want,
Well, I think to clarify all of this, an existing conditions drawing would be very helpful rather than annotated images. Like
right here.
where, so this building here, where in the footprint of the current building does that live, right?
That's what we were just looking at.
Well, I know, but a drawing would be helpful for that.
It's just really difficult to do a drawing on this. I mean, to do it, I mean, that's why we took pictures of every single side and went and highlighted, because it's hard for us. I mean, it's like 5-sided now.
The best thing to do, maybe, Matt, is use the reference point of that main ridge and that chimney, that little square of the chimney, and then you look at the next photo then. There you go.
Yeah.
And if you kind of look, I mean, scaled out wise, it doesn't even come to the back of what that addition is.
Well, that's what I'm trying to understand and clarify. Like, where does the original building sit within the current footprint?
I mean, you could kind of subjectively with the PDF, maybe draw a silhouette line over this.
Overlap to,
Yeah.
I mean, it is really hard, because like you said, I mean, that the only portion that we can see on this that we know that's original is that front portion where you have that roof line right there facing Front Street, but we don't know where that ends. And again, part of that's new too, because it had to tie in where they created those valleys and stuff. So I mean, it's a difficult, that's why when we were looking at it and trying to figure out how to best illustrate it, visually and be able to show it, we just decided that, and I think it came up at the previous meeting, that pictures would be good of each individual side. So that's what we ended up doing.
I think there were also some comments about documentation of that made in other meetings too, though. So we're trying to talk about what the original building was versus the addition and the Frankenstein elements of this. So that's why I'm asking the question, just to clarify that.
I mean, I guess what I can tell you is that the way that this thing is pieced together, that even if you understood what the original building was, it's not as if we could preserve it. I mean, and I think that's what we're talking about.
there's still a need for the documentation that doesn't go away, right? There's still a need to produce a set of as-built drawings as it is right now today. You can measure out and at least have that on file that this is what the building is, regardless of what our decision will be later on. Photos are helpful, absolutely helpful, but to have that kind of measured set, you know where the block windows are, we know what the spacing is between those, we know what the ridge line is, we know all of that's all written down.
I guess my question is, I think this is a pretty good representation that I could follow on walking through what kind of happened here with some grayness that will be answered. But is this truly something to go to the HABs level type drawing set?
I mean, yeah, what are you gonna gain from it? I just don't, I mean, if there was something to gain from it, I truly would go, and when I have these, because that's, I mean, we did what we thought you could get the best understanding is the process, because we did talk about doing that, but we didn't think that we could, we didn't think we could illustrate it as accurately unless we took the pictures of each individual section. I mean, if you're just telling me that just because we need to check the box and do an as-built, then fine, we'll go do the best that we can, but it's not gonna change that, this building has been completely kept together on 5 different sides. And we cannot preserve we've had our construction experts out there and looked at ways in which that we could try to preserve this building and integrate it, and we just can't.
Just great, I'm not saying.
No, I've
done a thorough job as far as putting that together, so it's just.
What I'm picking up on is there's still just a little bit of gray area that some folks have about understanding it. And this would help us
Sure.
Trying to, if you help us, we can help you. So what we're saying is if we can help clarify, I understand, Commissioner McCabe saying he's getting it, but I also hear from some other commissioners, maybe there's a little bit of gray. So maybe if you guys could help out a little bit, it might just be.
What is that gray though? I mean, I'm trying to understand what the gray
I think
is.
it's a simple silhouette outline.
That's it, yeah, could you
Okay.
highlight, could you take this drawing and highlight?
Sure,
Take the rectangle scaled on the first one and put it on the second.
100%, 100%.
And maybe
I mean,
you just literally do it.
I can't even tell exactly where that alley is, quite frankly.
That's what I was just-
I can't, I don't know
That's
where.
part of the point that I'm making, it's like the original building did not go all the way back to the alley.
Doesn't look like it did.
But
No, it didn't, yeah.
We just want to know
Yeah.
where.
And yeah, it didn't, and we'll be able to show that with which you're asking. And I think that, what Chairman McCabe just said is we can, 100%, we can do that and kind of overlay it as best, I mean, we'll do the best we can because it's an odd building now, but yeah. Yes, we can do that.
Then we'll all have that on record, and then if there's any questions that come up.
Yeah.
How thorough we were in terms of determining what was there and what wasn't.
It's a big
Say yes,
decision.
we asked questions.
Yeah, it's a big decision. We get it.
I think we initially struggled as a commission when we started with this application. The very first presentation was based on age, but then based on example, based on district, is it exceptional? Is it even not just exceptional, but it's more utilitarian? Looking at the picture, it is a building that has evolved. But at what point, I've always kept in the back of my mind is, okay, maybe it's not an exceptional example of this chalet architecture style. But in my mind, I'm struggling because I'm not seeing much original material even left of this. To really say what's left here besides a good story. And, I see there's newspaper clippings and some other things that have been added into our file. There's some great story stuff, but if it's just retelling the story, well, that can be done really nice with other forms of, incorporating motives in wallpapers, murals, telling a story.
100%.
Telling, there's other non-traditional ways, because I'm not so sure there's much of the building left to tell the story anymore.
I think it's important. Good.
No, I mean, I'm all for that, and I think, with that story and just having that, it goes back to having the documentation to go along with the story as a full package of what was there. Clearly, there are community members who feel, have strong feelings, right, about this building. And so I think that goes along with it, that you're doing the best as possible to fully document what's there and kind of take that into consideration before we outright just say. we're gonna demolish this building.
Two, I think there's an additional letter, which
So there's 3 total that have made comments that we're aware of.
based on the letters we've heard, it's not been arguing for the historicity of this building. It's been about massing and context, which ultimately, by the way, we have to have the rest of your presentation, and that's actually sort of a separate topic in my mind for the Commissioner Rapture. If I'm trying to guide our discussion, which is, the neighbors objecting to height and massing is just a different thing than what's left of this original structure of reservation taxes.
So the other point I'd make too, just. We've been talking about like what's original and what's addition, and I think that's really important in this case. Now, if they were really well done additions that also had historic impact, and we'd be having a different discussion. And I don't want that to be like for the future, if we're talking about different property, I said, well, what's existing and what was added to? A lot of American architecture is additive and that can be historical. So, but I do think in this particular case, there is a lack of integrity.
Yeah.
To what has been added, that in my view, a lot of that is not worth saying.
Sometimes we get these buildings with multiple additions, and like, could you peel back the layers of the onion to get to the original thing? And you peel things off and you're still left with nothing. I think is what concerns me.
Or an intentional craftsmanship that goes along with that design.
Yeah.
Which,
It's eroded over time. I think.
I think what I'm struggling with is we have examples of not amazing 1960s era buildings in the brewery district that have been adaptively reused, like the Claremont, the Southwind Hotel. So I just want to really understand this project in that context, because there are examples within a few blocks of here that have been for use and are pretty great projects. I mean, those are pretty remarkable.
Do you think that those buildings have more
Yeah.
integrity?
What was,
Well,
what was the south wind
100%.
before? What was the south wind before?
That's
Yeah,
Same use?
not right.
Yeah.
So-
Same use?
so,
What was the south wind before?
It was a motel.
Same
And the
thing.
Claremont.
And the Claremont was a,
It's a restaurant. Yeah.
okay,
And hotel.
so those didn't change use.
And there were, and to the chairman's point, there weren't significant alterations to the buildings. Every time you alter a building like that, if it's not done correctly in this case, then it becomes more obviously prohibited for us to be able to
The case that you
restore.
all
Yeah,
Need to make, so.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I-
From my perspective.
There are, a lot, you know, and one of the things is just, you know, meeting to meeting, I think, you know, we've had different commission members here, we've only got at least 5 here tonight. I think that the biggest thing is, you know, is whatever we individually vote, we've got to be compelled why we're voting a yes or a no anyways. And this may be this is the most challenging case I've seen across, really, in my time on that.
Yeah, and I
So-
think the brewery district is unique in the type of context that we typically deal with. So there are these era buildings here. So we have to be mindful of that, and it's a little different circumstance than some of the other districts that we work with.
But likewise, you know, I always like to say too, is we may not all see the same, you know, level of agreement in the commission.
well, and how long does it need to sit? You know, before, you know, people are convinced that, you know, I mean, how long does it need to be on the market? How many developers need to look at it? How many people need to do the same studies that we try to do? Because I mean, if you think that the building as it stands right now and the surface parking lot as it stands right now is its best use, then we're not gonna get over that. We're not gonna get over that.
Conversation.
Yeah, we're not gonna get over that.
After the
Could you tell
presentation.
me a little bit about this photo?
Yes,
So I think this is an important photo.
okay.
Give me some perspective. of where you-
Let's see, that was me standing. Hang on. That's in the middle of the building looking north. Okay, that would be, gosh, I know it's in there, just above the bar, between the bar and the,
Is it just past the ridge where it changes or where?
Oh.
yes, that's the overlay frame and you're,
So
original existing roof.
from the left of that stud
Is the original
is the original structure.
Right.
well,
Right.
you're looking at the shingles.
Yeah.
Or the original structure,
Back to
and the
building.
mechanicals going through it, and that little speck of light that you see
Yeah.
faces,
This eliminates a little bit of that question.
that faces the north
This eliminates where the building is.
condominium. Was that a condo or rental? To the left, that contemporary thing.
It's
Those are, yeah.
Those condos or rentals, that little speck of light is facing in that direction. And then the next photo, I go up a little bit further. I believe. No, where's the third one? I don't know what that one is. Those aren't in mine. Those,
So we've got kind of a conglomerate, I think, of different pieces, but I think that last photo is probably.
oh, he,
Pretty sure
okay.
that will help to give you some indication.
Well, we were standing roughly in the same locations, so, yeah, this bottom right one is all the way up in. And the one to the left is all the way back.
That's
Yeah.
the one.
Yeah, that one, and that's all the way back, and then the one to the right is climbing up a little bit farther up the roof of the original frame.
Okay.
You want to go?
No, I was thinking, yeah.
Okay.
We'll go look at it now.
No, I think it's a very telling photo. I think it
Yeah.
gives you a lot of insight to the.
I'm just trying to think if there's a way I can get the original walls, if I could get up there and measure where the framing, the old framing is sitting versus where the new framing is, but
Drill a hole in the roof.
that'd be awfully dangerous for me to do that. I'm just
Well,
trying
I
to
think
figure
we'll
out
be
how
able
to
to
get there.
Do it with the, I think those overlays
All right.
and trying to do that, I think is.
I think that's some really reference points.
What's that?
I think there's some really good reference points there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to reiterate again, back to the demo side of things, if this had been David and I have worked on projects in the short north where, again, there was demo involved, but because it was a brick facade on the front, facing the street, yeah, we've underpinned buildings that, done it where we saved the facade of that building, the face of the facade and underpinned those. And those are things that we've done in the past. Again, the only things that we see off of this existing building where we see that we can do that goes back to the original front door and also the original chimney. And we'll definitely honor the history in the new building, like in the lobby or something, and put a display up, and we can put something that talks about the history of the building that was on the original site.
For the purposes of timing, why don't we move on to your presentation of the design?
Thank you.
So
It's all separate.
so we did send some information, and I don't want to, because I want to go on to the design, but I want to make sure that we did send some additional information that we found on the detail that is what would be traditional Swiss chalet. Is there any good that maybe could be for David to hit upon that a little bit and kind of differentiate between that? Or do you think we've covered the building enough as the existing building, we should focus on the new?
Yeah, at this point, I mean, I'm familiar with that. I did a little bit of my own research on style.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't have any desire to anyone else.
Okay, and we submitted that information. I think we submitted that information, that article. Was that submitted, Craig?
We emailed it in.
Yeah. So, and it's available, and it's a pretty interesting article, yeah.
Document or something to put the application materials.
Yeah, I'll definitely.
All right.
All right. Let's move on to the new, or what we're proposing here. So the Brewer District is known for, a rich industrial heritage, characterized by robust brick masonry buildings, large pane windows, simple geometric forms, and utilitarian detailing. So this architectural style reflects the area's historic use as a center of brewing and manufacturing, combining functional design with durable materials that help preserve the district's unique urban fabric. This 6-story residential project thoughtfully brings about high-quality housing to a key infill site, which will respect the architectural character and the urban fabric. The ground floor includes 52 parking spaces and the main residential lobby and vertical circulation cores. Due to the significant grades which go from Front Street to the alley, access points would be off Deschler Avenue and Redbud Lane for the garage. Importantly, the garage lighting would be controlled by motion sensors designed to minimize night light pollution and reduce unnecessary energy consumption, thereby supporting the community's goals for environmental sensitivity and livability. We'll also incorporate landscape that will reduce the impact of those openings. The openings themselves, we have minimized. This is an older.
Yeah, this is a rendering that we put, I think, in our very first concept. And then after we had that meeting and we heard the feedback, we have the building penetrations. We've closed those up and enhanced some more landscaping, but I'll let you go.
So what's imperative to the building, obviously, is that garage floor remains an open air structure. So we have to be 50% open as far as openings on it. So we reduce the amount of openings towards the street and towards the residential as much as possible to still create that 50% openage. So we'd still have the fencing that would guard that, as well as a landscape overlay. The podium, above the podium, again, we have 100 units, 61 bedrooms, 42 bedrooms, designed to accommodate diverse urban lifestyle. Materiality, the first 4 floors, including the podium, are clad in a red-brown brick with hardy board green detailing, reflecting the historic masonry character of the brewery district. The top 2 floors are finished in that green hardy panel, lending to a lighter contemporary expression to the upper floors. We did use the zone-in criteria to define the massing. Notable that the feature on the first 2 through 6 floors are set 12 feet back from that ground floor facade. It would help reduce the building's visual mass as well as the pedestrian perspectives while enhancing that streetscape. It stands about 71 feet tall. It features a U-shaped footprint atop the podium, which utilizes that central courtyard for natural light, ventilation, outdoor amenity areas, and some full balconies that overlook Front Street. This development supports the ongoing revitalization of the brewery district by providing a thoughtful design, residential density, durable materials, and respects the relationship to the neighborhood context. Thank you.
So I think we hit all the comments that came from the previous. Again, I think the major comment came out is, again, what the neighbors would be looking into on the ground floor from the building. And as David discussed, we've slimmed down those penetrations. We have to keep it to the 50% because of to keep the code. And then we've also moved some landscaping around too. The thing I just want to reiterate about the access points, because obviously that's hugely important to the building footprint overall and the design. And as David said, there's a significant grade change, which means that we would have to do all kinds of shoring. And if we came in off of the back, then we would have to shore that up and then also create a downslope into that because of the grade change, which that impacts the constructability cost and also the design and the efficiency of how we lay out the parking deck itself. So that's why we saw, coming in from, the access points coming in from the two sides. That's the reasons why we came off of that. I mean, Front Street, we also thought that congestion off of Front Street, it just makes it more efficient being able to get it off Front Street, come in off the sides, and it deals with also the grade change, like we said, which is what we were looking at. You had asked for a slide that had also the scale showing the adjacent property. And so this is, this depicts what the adjacent is and what the contrast would be from the properties that are adjacent to it. Obviously, it's High Street that is on the east side of the property line, and that's where that gas station was, where you guys were looking at earlier today.
Let's, I'd love to hear, especially those who are landscape related.
Is there a site plan that?
Think about it's like the context,
Yeah.
It is the height, the scale, and the massing. We do support zoning infill, by the way, and the zone initiatives. But this is where kind of we have to decide, is this appropriate texture to the historic fabric of the neighborhood, though realizing there's a real mishmash here. It's texture too, style, HD. And even, it's amazing to me when you go back to the aerials from 1950, 1960s, how much surface lot is already in this area too.
So just to clarify, the current site plan is the same as the first correction, is that right? So I think that the ground floor, I think, is very important here.
The building itself basically goes from property line to property line here. So,
right up to right.
Setback in.
Are you guys proposing to maintain any of the existing landscape?
There's not much existing landscape there, so I can't, to tell you the truth, I can't speak to it except to say that unless it's invasive or, we would, try to integrate the existing landscape in there. Now, it's hard for me to make those promises because the site is tight, and I don't want to make promises in which that they're impacted during the construction phase and get destroyed.
I'm just stating that because I think that, and I know this isn't a criticism per se, it's just there are some existing trees that are shown sometimes as existing and sometimes not. So I'm just curious about if that's been thought through, and if it hasn't been thought through yet, that's fine.
I don't think we've had anybody
we'd have to get our landscape specialist out to talk about the sort of survivability of some of these trees, especially given where that building would be. It seems like the one on the front there is off the property.
Yeah, that's in the setback, so obviously
be
that would.
fine.
Yeah.
Everything else, again, that's probably, again, we're gonna be at our property lines. I think the ones on the top.
The pine
ones
is
are
not gonna
tougher.
stay.
I don't think they will survive.
But I mean, it really looks like it's just that one tree that's out in front of the pine that's in the back, and then there's a couple, there's a couple of those bushes there. That's all I can really see, so, I mean, we'll enhance it. You saw the backside, it's already up against the property line there pretty much.
Yeah, it's up against the building itself too, which is problematic.
Because you can see the utilities, and that's off the property line.
So now that we're talking about the proposal, so I'm very supportive of developing parking lot for sure. So just to be clear about that, I think the access points are problematic. I think you've got headlights going right into housing units, which I understand the grade issue. I'd love to look at that a little bit harder, especially on the north side along Deschler. So those are townhouses that have a front entrance right on the street there, so I just wanna think through that bit.
Would there be any way to contemplate all your garage maneuverability off the alleyway?
That would be ideal from my perspective.
It would be ideal from mine, but again, we're 6 feet up. So that means
We're taking all the parking out because where the ramp would have to go in to go down into the parking, so we'd lose a significant amount of parking. Again, we don't have to include parking with the new zone in, but from a marketability side, we want to park it at least, our goal is to park it at 0.6. There's a lot of connectivity to this site. But again, that's some of the challenges when David was looking at it is, where can we get those drive aisles? Where can we maximize the parking? Because from my standpoint on the design criteria, I'm telling his team that he needs at least a 0.6 on there or as close as possible. And this is what we came up with. And we are a little bit, we're at like 0.5 right now, a little bit above 0.5. So it's already short of where I would like it to be with the parking.
Where's the 6 foot difference?
So between Front Street and the alley, it's about 5.5 to 6 feet of height in this grades. Yeah, it's pretty dramatic. If you wanna, I got the grading plan here if you want to look at it.
I'm not designing could you flip the parking arrangement on the bottom floor and make up the grade? I'm not, that's a.
Well, as you can see, it's the way we are maxing out the way it's set up. So, yeah, we could flip it and all of a sudden, meaning access farther up the alleys, or you're still trying to come off the alley.
So again, I'm not designing the project, but if you're making up the grade on your first bay of parking, that would be on the east. Could that ease that a little bit? So you have your speed ramp down.
Right now, we have no speed ramp. This is basically pretty much on grade.
Yeah, I understand.
So that's why we did that.
If we flip it and we come off the alley, I'm gonna have to raise the building up 6 feet.
You guys have a big retaining wall on the east side of the.
Right. Right now, we have a retaining wall on the east side. If we flip it, we're gonna have a retaining wall on the west side. Or, yes. Because I'm gonna have to build the building up 6 feet in order to come off the alley, which is higher.
Oh, you're parking.
Yeah.
I mean, we can come down a little bit, but we're not gonna come down 6 feet. We're gonna come down.
What do we think about,
18
I didn't know the suggestion idea of entering off of the front, but you're still having cars likely come off the front and turn into alleys, so I don't know if there's a big difference in terms of turning into.
Well, the other options, we have one curb cut too. We don't do the two.
Tell me just not about I would say we're solving for our parking problem. I understand.
I know, I love that.
I understand you have a ratio that you want to hit. But there's still this question in my mind that we almost need to back up, which you know, I know is gonna make you cringe as the developer in the room, is the height and the massing appropriate? Because with that drives the number of units, which drives the parking ratio you're trying to hit, which drives the configuration of the garage limitations. Because where my mind also wants to go is, tell me, like, if you're walking up to this building, how you're even entering it. Like, I didn't see on this ground floor plan any type of lobby or really any space like that. Like, what is the pedestrian experience really from somebody experiencing this building and coming home?
I mean, this really is a kind of a garage base. You come into your garage and you come up that into a central core. The core is actually in the.
In the garage.
So the Amazon guy somehow delivers the package in the garage?
Yep,
Or visitors.
same thing. Yep.
Is that shown yet?
I mean, I feel like.
And again, the
It's
reason,
diagrammed in the floor plans, I believe.
yeah, yeah.
And where's this lobby thing? Like, where's that?
Do you want to pull up the site plan and show?
Well, he's got it's a first floor plan rotated shot right there.
So there's no front door,
True, no front door, correct.
which I think from a contextual standpoint, that's like kind of a little bit of a miss, because a building this big would have a front door somewhere.
We're definitely looking at that. Again, where David laid it out was to maximize so we can get the parking, and it was the most convenient. But no, everything that you're saying is prudent. To tell you the truth, this is a little fresh for me too. So, you know, just to be honest, as far as, and I don't disagree. So let us circle back around and talk about how the parking, how the parking's laid out and some of the concerns that you brought up as far as the entry point, which are all valid points. I mean, from a market standpoint too, they, you know, again, you don't want to walk through a garage that when people are coming in and everything. So these are all, you know, really good points. The points of, you know, of looking at, you know, ensuring to minimize that. I think maybe that would go back to what David just said, that maybe we just have one curb cut and have it come off of Dexler instead of, and then not have it looking, you know, and not having that curb cut that's off to, that's on the south side of the building.
So what I would suggest is that you look at how vehicles exiting will impact the adjacent property. And decide like this may or may not work best from that perspective.
Okay.
So I just, like, if I was owning one of those townhouses and now I have vehicles exiting, I'd be pretty grumpy about that. And I think that's part of our role is to think through that.
I get that, but
Yeah.
this is urban living. And this is an urban infill project, and they live in the project next to us is an urban infill project, and there is coming and goings that, you know, people live in an urban infill. And I mean, I wish that we could answer all the million
I think
variables.
we're looking for the best.
I agree.
The one
I
thing,
agree.
the one thing I want to be kind of cautious on is that we don't become either BCA or a planning commission or development commission approval mechanism, because we need to make sure we're sort of judging this by the Historic Resources Commission guidelines.
Yes.
And that is the one thing I do want to make sure we sort of stay in the context of all of our decisions, comments, and thoughts, even though we may have a subjective opinion about a lot of other things that I do. I just want to, we stay within the realm of what it is we're supposed to be reviewing too. And I do.
Which is what we have reviewed other cases and from this perspective. So I think like from the redistricting standpoint, on the architectural side, you know, if you look at other projects that have been approved recently, there have been more creative solutions to things. So I appreciate the comment about the industrial architecture and flavor, but I would suggest like think about some of the other proposals and that might be free up some more creativity on the architecture.
Again, we're looking at the design criteria that, you know, the historic district design criteria, and we're trying to match it in. I mean, and to the point that the Chairman McCabe made, you know, the raw truth of all this is that this puts us all in a very difficult position. I mean, you guys, in the sense that we, you know, as a developer, we just want to even play, we just want to understand the roadmap of where, we don't want to come in here and position a project.
Right.
But this process with not having the zone end being included Because I mean, why again did we do the zoning if developers are not supposed to find those guidelines and if developers are not supposed to listen to the messaging that's coming from the city about affordability?
The city was pretty clear. We have legal guidance.
No, I understand that.
On where zoning fits in historic districts, and the city did take a position. And feel free, Jacqueline has in our file for us how the two are supposed to overlay, and I think the city made a very clear effort of saying, when zone in hits a historic district, this is how it actually works.
100%, and I'm not disputing that. I'm saying that I think that process is flawed in the sense that and I'm not saying it's flawed because, take the commissions out of it, but there's no set of guidelines for us then to go by, besides 8 individual opinions on the commission board. Because we've looked at the overlay, we've looked at the design criteria, we've looked at the zone in, we've been to our 3rd meeting with you guys. And we've listened to all the comments and I think we've addressed a lot of it, but again, where the disconnect comes in that I think is not fair to either side. And I don't even like to say side, because I mean, I like to look at this as we're working as a team collaboratively. You're doing what's best, what you think for the city, and we are positioning a project that based off those guidelines. And I think again, the zoning, there's a disconnect and they're competing here right now where again, as a developer, we don't know where to position a project because zoning says one thing, but yet you guys have a say over the other, over the district, ultimately. So, I mean, again, I'm not trying to cry or complain here. It's part of the development process. It's just unfortunate that so much time and effort was part of the zone in, but yet in this process, the zone in it has no impact. You're just making process.
Well, I mean, what it does get you is we're entertaining a building that's probably much higher than you would have had under the original zone.
But is it? I mean, that's what I don't know right now. Because I mean, everybody's mentioned concern with the massing and, where is the building going to be? That's what we have to go through.
I don't know what your previous height district was here prior to zoning.
It was 5. Wasn't it 5?
Prior.
It was 5.
It was 60 feet.
60.
So, and then all we have is, the only difference between that and what we have now is the affordability, the 2-story for affordability bonus.
Well, actually, the affordability bonus would bump it to 85 feet.
So we didn't use the whole, height that we could have used through the bonus. We're like 14 feet, we're 14 feet less than what we could have gone with the bonus. We did it, based off of just, 2 stories.
I think as you're thinking and when you're packing together for an official vote later on, you certainly put that information in.
Sure.
Really clear, right? That you are not actually maximizing out, how does this compare to what the original standards were for this district? And I think that only helps.
Okay.
Zone in with 7 feet, 85 feet, 7 stories.
Yeah.
Matthew, can you expound a little bit about what you were saying about more creativity and tell me what you're.
So I think like the Jones Hill project, I'm just giving you the most recent example.
Yeah.
The architecture complements, but doesn't match the warehouse architecture of the original building. So I would just look at that project as an example, but I think there's a little more, at least open-mindedness to some more contemporary architecture here in this district, if that's
So you're vocalizing it's too traditional? Is that what you're thinking?
I wouldn't say that. I think when I react to the building, I think the massing is a little sturdy. That's the way that I would say it. So in my view, and I'm kind of echoing Commissioner McCabe's comment, I think the front street elevation, I think needs some breadth. Like it's a little just, there needs to be some movement there, I guess is what I'm getting at. And
the scale.
Yeah. So I'm trying to articulate how I feel about that, and also that front door thing is important.
Yeah.
Having a way to create a more positive environment on the street, I think is really important. So whether it's garage space or units, I would love if those units. I understand that you have parking that you're trying to do, I get it. But I think that's really important, that experience along Front Street and how the building relates to that. So if that's just my general comment there.
That helps.
I think from my perspective, I'm supportive of your parking ratio, if that's what you're trying to do personally. So I would just,
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of no parking.
I understand,
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting
Yeah.
that, but I understand that, so.
I think we also have to look at, in this rendering in particular, what does it look like? Can you start to visualize headlights and things coming through those openings? And then how does this change in the daytime, right? You're gonna see a lot more detail or less detail, as Commissioner, I'm sure it's fine. So I think just seeing those side by side, again, just more things that would help your case for
Sure.
why this is an effective proposal for this particular location. Yeah.
The other item, I think, it hits on a lot of scale, pedestrian friendly, front door, activation of the street. Right now, I would just imagine walking by this, sort of neighborhoods oftentimes were walkable, right? And they were pedestrian friendly and there was scale to them. Right now, I feel like this is more oriented toward the automobile, which I understand we are trying to park it. But I do think there might be an opportunity to break down scale, activate that facade a bit by having entries with stairs that are maybe brought to Front Street so that there is actually a pedestrian engagement of places to go into the building. You might break up that whole facade a little bit more. Because right now, I mean, if you look at the representation of those people, and I do really appreciate how far along the representations come in a quick amount of time. But the first thing I noticed there is how small those people are relative to the massing of the building and what it would be like to walk next to, more or less it's parking, right? That's what you're gonna experience is brick and parking.
We need to soften it and like you said, engage it. Yeah.
Well, bar to park.
Hard parking,
Jail
brick. Yeah, and so it's just, I think there's more opportunity there to enliven that experience from that neighborhood.
Yeah, and just now that I'm catching up to myself on my comments, I think like if there was a dialogue between the north and south architecture, I think that's important in terms of scale. Having said that, the alley side really doesn't have any context. So if you were to vary massing, I think there's opportunity from that perspective.
Is it more appropriate that this building reads as one mass, or should it try to read as a couple different types of architectural forms? I know that becomes a very important thing for the architect long term, but there are buildings that successfully take a building and really do make it look like it's trying to be several smaller buildings or unique architectural languages. Then I've seen recent projects that completely flop that, and you go, oh my gosh, I wish they didn't even try, right? Is it more appropriate because of the other scale of buildings around this to try and break down the mass? Or is it more appropriate to have this building read as one consistent mass? And this is a question for the commission, but it's also, something for your design team to think about maybe long term. I, by the way, also support variance requests for ground floor living units. I know you lose some parking, but you can still liner a garage or a podium structure on a street and put some front doors. I could even townhouse the first floor into the second floor unit, essentially.
It's just really tight. I mean, again, it's really tight in and we do need to park it. I mean, we do. I hear what you're saying. And, we have on Front Street, he and I are working on other things that are down on Front Street and other buildings where we do have the ground floor, that ground floor residential experience. So, I mean, it's something we have looked to on future projects to integrate into, but this site is, it is compact and it's difficult. So, but no, nonetheless, we'll look at it.
It might not have to be, it's not necessarily, that comment doesn't have to be all black or white, so it doesn't have to all be that strategy. It could be
selected,
right? And it might help break up and engage the street a little bit more, have that pedestrian element.
I think the only issue with that though is even if we break it up, we're still using that whole along that Front Street, that west wall of the building, we'll lose that whole row of parking. Pretty much. I mean, and I don't want to speak out, listen, I don't want to speak out of school, so we'll listen to everything that you're saying, and obviously we'll talk in more detail than that.
That might be the case.
Yes, I think that's probably, yeah.
See the smoke coming out of my ears, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm
you, guys.
listening.
Thank you. There's a lot of information. If you guys have anything in closing, maybe you wanted to.
So just as you develop this more, the site plan that shows the adjacent context is important. So, you know, does something happen on Front Street that you're planning? I don't know, that's up to you. But I think we just want to understand that. And then access points, I think there's a broader conversation with other parts of the city. So we just want to make sure we're all on the same.
Yeah, because that's the other considerations. We can sit here conceptually and talk about the access points, and then we go to city right afterwards, and they're changing everything.
That's part of my.
Yeah,
Yes, they will.
as we know.
Though I think when you go to other city departments saying we have the support of X, which also does help. I also.
That does help, yes.
I would appreciate too, on the next version of it here, it would have been really useful to maybe have two sections. One section sort of through where it sits closer to Front Street, and then kind of the middle part of the building steps back, just to understand what that looks like in a quick silhouette section. You know, where it's stepping and what it's doing, and
Yeah, you don't get a sense of it in
No,
this frame
no,
right now. And there are, and that's, I was gonna mention that, because there are some, you know, we do have some step backs that breaks up the building a little bit. All it does, you can't, it's not illustrated well here.
Are there any early thoughts on what would happen in that center part of that U on the exterior? Like,
It'll be a amenity deck.
It is a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to summarize from what staff is hearing a lot of commission feedback that seems to go back to standards for new construction, what the commission is charged with, including for massing. I know the applicant has some questions about, you know, what the commission can consider as far as those different city coding guidelines. So I would just really take a look at that, the standards for new construction city code. That's what I'm thinking of hearing a lot of feedback fall in line with. That's what we have to kind of follow. And that's part of that preservation, working with redevelopment. Title 34 from our zoning code, very important. So is Title 31, preservation, all very important. So
Definitely. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is very productive and very helpful, so we appreciate it. We know it's complex. All these projects are complex and difficult, so we appreciate the feedback.
Worth the time.
And we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Wait a
evening.
minute, Craig didn't get to say anything.
No, Craig doesn't need to say anything. The attorney doesn't do.
most people are happy when the lawyers don't say.
Yeah. He was ready to go, and he has, but yeah, in this case, we're good. We don't need to go through all the zoning and all the other.
Any items of new business or old business?
it's a new business. One is. Oh, you're right. Yeah, good. Thank you, madam. As that reminding me, there is an application, we haven't shown. So if you want to do that application, so they can come to the next hearing.
Okay. And so that was case number 9.
Unless the commissioner first feels comfortable in approving it without the application. It's, and I can run through it real quick.
Why don't you run through it?
Sure. So this, the number 9 one that we didn't have someone for 6.2 Lakewood. So this was for site work. It is a result of a code violation in part. That part is the smokehouse. And a little bit more complicated. So hoop house with wood doors. And then the applicant has revised their application. So I know the commission has some feedback at the business meeting regarding the fence. The applicant revised to be the maximum 6-foot height. And then they would also be having that fence come back so that the fence would not go past the first side window. So meeting those fencing guidelines. We did reach out to building and zoning. I know someone in zoning was trying to get an answer for us, but didn't quite hear back on that. From my understanding, it seems like there might be a zoning clearance needed, but I didn't get anything as far as particulars for size or whatnot. So I think that's just gonna fall to the commission. And
Could we, at this point, as a commission, vote to move the 6-foot fence to staff approval?
Sure.
So moved.
And we're excluding the 8-foot.
Yes, we're excluding the 8-foot section,
We
but
have revised that.
they've already revised it.
Oh, it's still the 8 right there. Is that's an old document?
That might be an older one. There should be the newer one in here, because they did submit it.
I'm fine with it, but that's just a detail.
Maybe just didn't get the uploaded one. But they did submit a revised site plan that shows 6 foot.
Okay, so is there a motion to move it? So there's a motion to move it to staff approval with a 6-foot fence. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Having motion, a second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, and then if there's anything regarding that passes. If there's anything regarding the hoop house and the zoning clearances or anything else, let's just come back and tackle that as a thing when we know more.
Okay.
Need a motion to continue or?
Yes, please.
Okay, motion to continue.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes.
Great, thank you. And then for new business, we do have an item, so just want to make the commission aware that this room 204, is gonna go over some renovations. I think it's mostly for tech, like sound, videos, stuff like that they're upgrading over the summer. That does mean that we're gonna have to use a different room. And we're primarily have the conference room that's in the garage reserved. I know some people have been there, maybe some people have not. It's sort of a larger room. Usually you go past if you go to the garage, and go up the staircase or elevators on the one end. The only exception is there's one hearing where I think it was booked, so we'll have to do, it might be like the July one in room 205, which we've done before.
Okay, great.
And then our last thing is Commissioner Baba, who really appreciate
Thank you for your
hard
service.
work.
Congratulations.
We want the opportunity to, yeah.
And staff will report back when there's a new potential applicant that you suggest.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, great.
We're gonna miss you.
Okay, no items of old business. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn, please.
So moved.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. We are adjourned at 7:21 PM. Thank you.